We are red is on.
Being 4:45, I will call the Tilton Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Let the record show that Selectman Scanlon is not here. He is on his way. He should be here by 5. At this point, could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sorry, I deal with kindergartners and they go even slower than this, so it's...
I want to get
Pause after coming off.
Come to our school in the morning at 8 and you can see K through 8 doing it all together. And the kindergartners slow us down, sorry.
Yeah, why do we have all the pauses? Somebody,
Because it's like when you doing an oath, you always do short segments.
I feel like I'm reciting a poem.
Well, it's like,
It is.
no,
It is.
Catherine, raise your right hand and repeat after me. It's
Oh,
like-
that's right, you're right. That is, you're right.
So now that we're done with that, we can move on to minutes.
29?
the pauses.
I'll make a motion to bring the minutes of January 29th to the floor for discussion.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Motion passes.
The first, under public input, was the letter received from the town planner or was the letter received from the code enforcement? I thought he said code enforcement.
It was from the town planner.
Okay.
I have it somewhere in the,
Yeah, it was from the
in there.
Okay.
On the bottom of the page, it should say Water District because it's not a department of the town of Tilton. First page, I'm sorry, Chief Cormier's report. He mentioned it, he probably did say the Water Department. Should
Third
be-
line.
Would be Water District.
Tilton Northfield Water District. Its full name.
Under town administrator report, I'm just thinking in terms of reading this 5 years or 10 years from now, when it says Attorney Radigan is offered to provide free training sessions for ZBA and planning board members. Should we, if you're going to put that in there, should we also put down that we accepted or we said yay, or when can he start, or something to that effect? Or
I put a question mark there because I didn't know if we had,
yeah, we said yes.
or did we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and Catherine had a question, which was, what will he be providing training for? Which I then came back to the next week and told you.
Yeah.
So I guess you just put selectmen approved or something like that. numbers, because this is correct, but say when that goes to the bond. Instead of giving rate numbers, it's only bond and then on soft costs.
Gotta say, Gail, you're getting better and better at doing this.
Thank you.
Right to the point.
Did we really vote to add $2,000 into the Lake Improvement Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund?
Mhm.
You sure? I thought we
And then
had,
but this, don't forget, this is January
Oh,
29th.
so then you took it out.
Oh,
Okay.
we did? Okay,
I thought
all
once we
right.
saw the balance,
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it.
because it's like, you're not
Well,
gonna
it's like-
earn,
It's like I said to Gail, right here at the end where it talks about Articles 8 and 9.
right,
Well, they're now 3 and 4.
right.
So she's right with what she said, but if somebody's reading this 5 years from now, so she's just going to talked about the warrant articles on bond and,
Yeah.
The articles formerly 8 and 9 now.
yeah.
And of course, it can still be that way in a town meeting, we can change the order. So,
I make a motion to accept the minutes of July 29th, 2019 as correct.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, there being none, motion passes. He's around.
John, right on time, John. Just finished the minutes. Is there a PowerPoint to this?
For the item.
No, we do have a projector though. There's not a PowerPoint. We're actually just gonna go live with the software.
Okay, well, I still want to go over this so I can see.
Oh,
Up there? Will it be up there?
it will, yeah. We can go ahead and put this on.
Everybody's gonna look at this movie and say, where did something go?
I'd like to, as you see from the memo, we're going to start tonight with the iWorks demonstration. I just want to thank Sheena for staying late tonight. She's the person who enters most of our data in the system, is most proficient with it, so I really appreciate her being here to help show the system as I talk. So let's go ahead and open the permit screen sheet. So here you see, this is when we come in to use the iWorks system, this is, as you may recall, this is the software that we're using to manage building permits. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want it darker?
Only if you want me to see it.
Okay.
Needs to be more contrast for you. Got it?
Oh, thanks.
You got light on something. Oh, I got it now.
So this is the software that we're using for building permit management and code enforcement, and, tracking violations. So here we have the permit screen and the permit management functions. This is where we usually open up and start with iWorks. As you see, that button that Sheena's close to, that select view, that allows you kind of define the parameters. Right now she has everything selected. So if you want to find a particular permit, you can certainly scroll through, or you can click on the headings to sort by whatever heading. But generally, if we want to find something, we go right into the search. So go ahead, Sheena, and she'll show you how to search. Commonly we go by name. We want to enter somebody in there, Sheena. How about like Kevin Cass or something? So there it narrows it down to the current permits we have with Kevin Cass. These are probably all related to his Highland Ridge cluster development. So Sheena's gone ahead and opened one of them. Let's take a look and show you kind of what you get when you click on the permit. This is where you start getting into the information. Mostly it's general stuff up top, but as Sheena's, with a list of options we'll talk about on the right later, but as Sheena scrolls down, you see you get into some more information. Here's where it gets, where the fees are assigned. What else we got?
Are
Payments
the fees
were made.
already calculated in there, or do you apply the fees?
Let's see, we plan on, why don't we go ahead and do, you want to show, we'll show you the fees, a little bit more about the fees shortly.
Okay, no problem.
But, yeah, they're obviously based on the fees that we recently worked on, and there is a calculation function that the program provides.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of a good look at an existing permit. But why don't you show them how you create this? So she's going to click on Create Permit, and so this is what, when we get a form submitted to the office, this is how it starts with Sheena, sometimes Al, entering the permit itself. So she's going to go through and start a permit there. As she's doing that, I just want to explain a little bit of how this aligns with our Avatar assessing system. So Avatar, is our assessing database. We take an extraction from that once a year and send that along to iWorks, and that way if any changes have been made to parcels, or we added new parcels through subdivisions or whatnot, they'll get captured. At the same time, iWorks will make sure that old data remains with the parcel, so that when you look at a parcel, you still have that record going back through history. So it looks like Sheena is entering what? We got a new swimming pool for Homer Simpson. So she's gone ahead and entered some of the data. So let's, do you want to show, you want to go ahead and, okay, yeah, so now she's basically created, so now we're sort of where we were when we were looking at one of the Kevin Lacasse permits. It's an existing permit, but there's still obviously a lot of work we can do here. And this is where we would add the fees. Maybe could you just click on the add fees just so we can see, you see here, this is what Selectman Constantino was asking about. This is automated to some degree. Although Sheena will go, she usually goes and checks just to make sure the math is right and matches what what the applicant had and what we would have had just by calculating on our own. But generally it works pretty accurately, right?
Right. There are two different ways that it can pull the numbers to. If you give like a square footage, when you're in this section here, it can calculate by the square footage. It's like $50 fee plus 20 cents a square foot, something like that. And it automatically does it. And if you have, based on project, like if you're doing like a plumbing or electrical, commercial kind of a permit, it'll catch those fees too. So if you have like a $21,000 electrical permit somehow, it'll give you the right fee without you having to do all that calculation. And this is pulled it from the square footage here and giving us the right number.
Excellent. Thank you. And let's go ahead and show them. So this is where we would upload files. I don't know if you saw in the Kevin Lacasse one, we probably had the building permit entered there. We can show you that on another one. But so this is the Homer Simpson swimming pool. So here it looks like the applicant has submitted a photograph. Must have built the pool before he got his permit. Let's see what we got. What do we got? Oh, so we can now view this, and there we see the pool. So, yes, and we do use this. We have, as you see when we go through our code enforcement cases, we certainly use this to document complaints and what's going on a site. So let's use the Homer. You have the Homer Simpson. Go ahead and show what it would be to. So let's say Sheena's going to schedule an inspection for Al. There, you'd also and this, I have to say, this works better on our computers. It's a little bit difficult with a Chromebook. I'm very impressed with the fact that Sheena's not having any difficulty like I was. But so here's where we schedule inspections. And then these inspections, they all are collected on a calendar that Al can view. So he could, at the beginning of the week, look in and see all of his inspections scheduled for that week or for that month, or he could go out and look as far as he wishes. So thank you for showing that. Why don't we look at a completed inspection? Yes.
You have like pending for the inspection status.
Right.
Does Al then go in following up and put down the permit issued, or is that done on your side?
Al does that.
Al.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Was that accurate? I'm sure Sheena winds up doing, helping us out with all aspects of this at various times. Yeah. So anything Al and I do, probably we could add. Sheena helps us with on anything. But let's see. So yeah, let's look at maybe a completed one. I want to show you how the system, and this will be an example of what Mr. Selectman Jesselman was just asking about, I think. That's this, okay. So she went right to a particular permit. And you see passed on that one, status passed. Can you go ahead and open that one, Sheena? And now, so this was I think this one was a CO inspection, is that right? Yeah, certificate of occupancy. And if you go down, the fees are all taken care of. And then this is an example where, keep going, I think this one, yeah. Here's a letter that was generated by the system. Yeah, thanks. And there you see, it looks just, we sent them our CO form, and it looks just like it. And that's what Tim, Joubert, and Al now signed, this digitally generated certificate of occupancy, which is always in there. Yeah, so that's sort of the process, the building permit management element from beginning to end. So now, and I can make this one a little bit shorter. Why don't we look at the...
Peter has a question.
Oh, sure.
So other than, what documentation do we have other than saying the inspection passed? Because if it's electrical and it's a large building, it's probably going to have multiple phases. If I see passed, it doesn't tell me a whole lot of information. Does Al have some sort of inspection sheet that he does when he goes out that you could then PDF whatever and attach to that so we have additional?
Yeah, I think that would probably be the next phase of our taking full advantage of this software, is where you can, something I didn't talk about, this reminds me, is the customization capacity of the software is excellent. So we can go in and change, we on our own, without calling the iWorks people, we can establish what types of inspections we have, what types of permits, and within inspections we can create checklists. And I'm working with Al right now to generate full checklists of all the inspections. Right now we are still relying on his manual record keeping for that aspect of it. But I think, come this time next year, I think we'll be able to have a full, robust view. When he does do an inspection, you'll be able to see exactly what was checked off. As of now, if it says passed, it means they came into compliance with all aspects. But let's go into the case management. What is it called again? I always call it case management. Code enforcement. So this is where we manage enforcement matters, violations, things like that. And here you see a drop-down list of what we got going on. Sheena, why don't you go ahead and click on one. What's this one? Okay, so we've become aware of does it say operation of unauthorized vehicle storage or repair facility? This is when you see Al, I think Al did some work on this just recently where the,
I'm just gonna zoom it in so you can
Okay.
see it, sorry about that.
that's all right.
All of those are violations on the left.
Well, they're, I wouldn't call them violations, they're cases that we're monitoring. And that in this one.
They have something that you can change, they update, or they get up to code, or and then it's not technically a violation, but they can fix it.
My belief, and being here 5 years and seeing the way we're able to work with people, I expect hopefully all of those will be cured without any sort of fine or violation.
What's 21 Chestnut?
Sorry.
Violation of housing standards ordinance. I believe that property was posted.
Oh, okay.
It is posted.
Oh yeah, so this is a perfect one. Yeah, nice, well-contained capture of what was done. Posted property, owner called, claimed to be selling property, need to send letters stating nature violation. On this one, we don't have any uploaded files. I think we did on that other one.
Yes, we did.
Could you go back to that one? Just an example of how we're able to document things in here. So there's a photograph or a screenshot that came from, because we heard about this, we're in the process of researching it. Here's an example of a screenshot that comes up that I think gives us verification that, yeah, there is a business going on there. And we don't have any record of that having been approved. So we'll address that. Again, I expect that, I do not expect that there will be any fines or anything like that. We just need to bring these people into compliance. What's another one? Let's click on another one.
Heading the wrong way.
We'll just mouse over it, right?
It's just a second. It takes 2 seconds.
Okay, yeah, good point, good point.
If you click the wrong thing.
What's happening?
Great time for my phone.
I think
It's like it's
just
updated.
click on one of those. Which one do you want to do, the old or the new? Just click on one of them. Sheena.
So, let's see.
So,
So this is giving us the permit.
it's
What?
different.
It does. That's okay.
Here, click on that somehow. That's a popular one. That- So here's, we all know about this, obviously a violation was reported by Chuck Mitchell. So this, I bet you this is our most populated one. I mean, let's see. So you go down, you see all these activities, something recently, you've got no letters. Well, we do have letters, but they weren't generated in the system. So yeah, show that whole, if you don't mind, that whole list of file uploads by scrolling down further. Yeah, so this is sort of what we've got. Maybe click on the third one there. This you all saw last week. This is the letter. The last time I was before you, this is just a a digital captured copy in the system of that notice. And we were I reported that the vehicles were moved in response to that, and then we've had a more recent complaint. We can talk about all this more, after the presentation if you wish. But here's where we show all the activity that's gone on in this case. So. I think those are actually 3 really good examples of code enforcement. Is there anything else that you can think of, Sheena?
So what happens now when this is complete? So now you've gone to this, you feel like that there's no further activity on 21 Chestnut or Summerhammer or whatever, or Ruby Lane, and you say, okay, we've pretty well, he's brought up to code, he's done what he's had to do, come to site plan, whatever. And now you're all done.
Yeah.
Where does it go?
I see, actually, so there's a closed function. It wouldn't necessarily go away, and that one shouldn't be closed.
Okay.
Obviously, we'll have to fix that. But I do believe they stay in this. Actually, they do. They stay in here, so it still stays on this list. So you would have to, could you sort, yeah, go ahead and click on that.
So it'll-
Or did you already? Yeah, so see, when she clicks on that, it sorts by that particular column, field, thank you, Liz. And so you could pull all your pending up to the top, or, you could isolate where they stand and go that way. But I think once they're closed, they still stay on this list. And all of this goes back to a map and lot number. So if when you look by map and lot number, all of this connects. And that's, I think, about the gist of it. Again, unless there's anything you wanted to add, Sheena.
I don't know, I guess I would just add that, you can keep track of any kind of phone calls, any kind of actions that you make at all, date and time them. You can really keep a complete record of everything you've done with any of these cases. So like if you make a phone call at 11 o'clock, you want to remember that you did that. You can set reminders that'll, basically make like a note that, it's an important thing, and it's pretty helpful as far as reminding you what you are, what you need to do and how far along you are on dealing with something. So I think it's been pretty intuitive on learning how to use this. Al seems to have picked it up really quickly, and I think it's just been, pretty easy and helpful to use.
Thank you. And I'd say the iWork staff has been good as far as the trainings. They've done several trainings for us, and they're always willing to accommodate additional trainings on anything we're not sure on.
Right, and they're really easy to get a hold of and very helpful, very, pleasant to deal with.
Do you get a lot of calls that say anonymous?
Yeah, I think, and that's something that, so, like, the one at the top there, we all know about that one. That came in supposedly anonymous, although we all know where it came from.
Catherine, do you get a lot in health officer complaints?
Oh.
Anonymous?
Tons.
Okay,
Yes.
all right,
I get them from other towns.
okay.
Yeah. So,
Well, we do occasionally as a selectman, but it's only occasional. We kind of know where they're coming from, or what's
yeah,
generated.
That's good. And, I just want to thank Sheena for staying late tonight.
Yes, thank you.
This wouldn't have gone as well if I was trying to do it myself.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, question, so let's say somebody comes in and they say they're doing an addition or something like that, and it's just going to be something really simple, and they go and they get the permit, it gets inspected, it gets passed, but then they go back in, they actually turn into something much more grandiose. How do you know that, and later on they say, no, that's what they looked at. How do you know that?
I think that's where, in my mind, and it's really important, and we focus on making sure there's just a few lines on the permit that are probably the most important piece of the permit, where they say what they're going to do. It happens a lot where people don't list things on it. And we say, that's not what you're permitted to do. And if Al discovers that someone's done work above and beyond that, he's going to require an additional permit.
So he inspects it for the scope of what's on the permit.
Oh.
Proves that.
I mean,
And then if something more is done, and it's reported later, and he says, well, that was what I was doing, and it was approved, you can say that's not in the scope. So
Yes.
Is the scope of those inspections included in these here?
Yes, and certainly where Sheena is uploading the permit, it's got that physical record of what they wrote in their handwriting and what they were going to do. And I'll say, I would say Al might, on the fly, he might show up at a site, discover that they had done additional work, say, no, you come and submit a permit, but maybe he'd conduct that inspection just to get it out of the way. And say, bring in a permit, and we'll get you squared away. So I don't, he's got some way, obviously, to handle it, at that level.
That actually happened.
Yeah, okay, yeah, perfect example, yeah, Lone Star was a good example of that happening.
Oh, yeah. He kept going. It's just gonna be this big.
So that was, I think, potentially the long part of my presentation. The other two items I have under discussion items are zoning enforcement, so I'll get right into that. Last time I was before you, we talked about me reaching out to an attorney to get an estimate on what it would cost to develop some assistance with enforcement of our 11 o'clock lighting regulation and our 100-foot wetlands buffer, which, as you saw in my last memo last time, there's some concerns with grandfathering and how enforcing that should all be done legally and properly and equitably. So Attorney Radigan, as you see here, provided an estimate of 4 to 5 hours to compose a guidance memo. And in our discussion, he did agree that it was the correct way to go. And so I would seek your permission to obtain that guidance memo from him.
Did he put a dollar tag on it?
It would be less than 1,000.
I don't know what he charges us an hour.
He said those were his actual words. 4 or 5 hours, somewhere under it, somewhere less than 1,000.
I think it's $225 or $235 that he charges.
So, this, by contracting with this attorney, are we going to have a justification for then going forward and actually doing enforcement?
Well,
Or is this
yes.
just that we're going to have an opinion and we won't do anything?
I'm guessing he will set parameters, and he will say, in cases like this, don't enforce. Like, if you've got a family that's lived on Silver Lake, their entire property was in the 100-foot buffer, he's probably going to say, do not tell them they're not allowed to park in their driveway. So I think in some ways it'll pull back, but having those parameters will allow us to go full force ahead when we do have clear violations.
I'm concerned about the 11 p.m. lighting regulation. How do we enforce that? So I'm interested in seeing what we might get.
Yeah, I mean, I am too. We did discuss it briefly today, and the idea of public safety was brought up, and only enforcing an instance of public safety. And my response was, every single property owner who's got their lights on after 11 is going to claim they're doing it for safety, and they probably are. So he agreed, that was the extent of our conversation at this
Okay.
point.
You're going to include the height of light poles? Because that's no longer grandfathered. And they can't exceed, 15 feet?
But I don't. Okay, well, I can add that to that.
I'm just saying.
I was thinking about, I was focusing on these.
I know those are the big ones, but
Yeah.
that's the one that's concerning me the most. We're going to go around and tell everybody to lower their light poles to 15 feet?
Oh, wow. Yeah, try that. We'd be defending ourselves
Because, we don't find them as...
lawsuits.
Okay,
I just think that's a big one.
all right.
There's probably others, but I think those are the three most egregious.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if you want to think about that more.
No, I think make a motion to.
Right, go ahead, I'm ready for a second.
Do that. I'll make that as a motion, or did you make a motion?
She made a motion.
He made a motion to go ahead, and I'm going to second his motion to go ahead.
Okay. And I guess discussion? No discussion, pay now or pay later?
Well, I guess, but I hate to spend $1,000. We have regulations in place, correct?
Yeah, but yes, but as I covered in my last memo, these are going to be
Interpretations of the
difficult
regulations.
to enforce. If we were to, we know right up front that if we enforce them as written across the board, we're going to wind up.
It's going to cost us more than that.
Yeah,
God, yes.
yeah. So
Just imagine them going around exit 20 and telling everybody to shorten their light poles to 15 feet.
Walmart, they've got, what, a 70-foot pole or something?
Just saying.
No, I get that. I'm dubious as to whether it's gonna be less than $1,000 for something that we can actually use in the end.
I find he's usually right on the mark with his estimates.
Yeah.
And this is the same attorney that's volunteered his time to come and teach it.
Yeah, he usually
Still
is
an
very
attorney.
good.
Aye. Call the question.
Okay, question's been called.
Just cut off discussion? Okay, all right, good.
Maybe.
Just kidding.
As soon as you brought up the lawyer thing, I did.
Yeah. Call my lawyer.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Yeah, I voted aye.
That was unanimous, including Joe.
So I think what you heard, Dara, is when you have the conversation with John is, I think there's a concern that it's going to actually be something useful, you know, when he,
Yeah.
so just.
Yeah.
for that comment.
Okay.
Something we can move forward with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thank you. I think this is very important, and it's going to allow us to move forward with some clarity on this.
He should provide you with a written guideline.
Oh, yes, there should
Well,
be
it's certainly
something
going to
right.
be written. I mean, yeah.
No, I mean, and he's just usually very good about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think his term.
Nice choice.
His term was, why can't I think of it? Something memo, guidance memo, yes, guidance memo.
Wasn't gonna go that far, Joe.
All right, so 79E, I believe this was distributed last week. I think you guys, we need to make a determination as to what was agreed upon at town meeting. If you look at the record, there's some suggestion that the 79E, the Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive, applies to only downtown, and then there was some suggestion elsewhere during the meeting that it applied to both downtown and the village district. And we need to decide what people voted on to accept.
The
Was
people
this-
voted on the warrant article, and the warrant article was not changed.
What's this again?
It's a community
79E.
revitalization tax relief incentive where if you're within the zone, which we're trying to figure out what that is, you could potentially buy a property, make improvements to it, and as long as you can demonstrate that there's a public benefit to the improvements you're making,
Yep.
you could apply to this body, the Board of Selectmen, seeking relief from, so tax relief from the improvements you make on the building for a period of up to 5 years. So that's an incentive to get people to come in and invest in our downtown and upgrade some buildings that could use it.
And what's the wording of the town meeting?
You should have a right on.
Do I have it in here?
But it
yeah,
doesn't
we
matter what
had-
the discussion
had
is,
that
it's
last
what was
week.
voted on.
I wasn't here last
Motion
week, I'm
wasn't
sorry.
changed, wasn't altered. They voted on the motion to adopt the provisions of 79E. And 79E is pretty clear.
Okay, but, I'm sorry, I don't have all that you have. Could I kind of borrow from you?
Absolutely.
Because if you look at this,
It's right down here. I highlighted the two.
okay, however,
But I think Catherine's right, however they defined it in the statute is how it.
there's another piece of paper though that goes along with this, and I'm fine. I mean, if you're set, what's your take, that it's village and downtown district?
No, so if you look at 79E, is declared to be a public benefit to enhance downtowns and town centers. And then you go down, 11B, it is further declared to be a public benefit to encourage the rehabilitation of historic structures in a municipality. So that could be located anywhere. And then it goes on to describe what a historic structure is. Qualifying structure under definition. Building located in a district officially designated in a municipality's master plan or zoning ordinance as a downtown, town center, central business district or village center, or where no such designation has been made in a geographic area which, as a result of its compact development patterns and uses, is identified by the governing body as the downtown, town center, or village center for purposes of this chapter. And then it goes on and on and on.
So it does include the village center,
Well, as I
village
said,
district.
It's all about the.
or downtown, it is, as I said, it is declared to be a public benefit to enhance downtowns and town centers. That's why the law was made. But it also, down here, the caveat is an historic structure anywhere in town could qualify.
I mean,
But the qualification for a historic structure is in the definitions as well. And,
Is that 79 that you're reading from?
yes.
okay. However, just to make sure, I'm not pushing one way or the other, I just want to make sure I'm giving all that I have as far as information on this. If you look at Article 8, it says, to see if the town is in favor, blah, blah, blah. And then in parentheses, it says, an explanation of the law is printed in the annual town report. Now, if you go to that, how it works. A property owner who wants to substantially rehabilitate a building located downtown may apply to the Board of Selectmen. So you know, that's just one piece. I'm not saying that's, you know, the final say, but that's a piece where, you know, potentially someone would, and it looks like Judy Tilton pointed out that the language in the statute specifically say only if the building's location is in the downtown district. I don't know, maybe she didn't mean statute, maybe she actually meant
She didn't, yeah, she didn't read it all.
So, you know, it seems there's some pointing either way. I feel like, you know, if we, well, I don't.
If you
So-
go to the laws governing town meeting, we, in our warrant, put this article as written. That's what everybody was warned to. It wasn't changed, I'm repeating myself. That's what they voted on. They voted on
That's the law.
this.
So, meaning what? That it's open to downtown and village?
Yep.
So that we have to look and see located district officially designated in a municipality's master plan or zoning ordinance as a downtown, town central, or central district. We have to look at that first. And then if we can't figure it out, then the governing body determines what that is.
Okay.
So can I make a suggestion that perhaps Jeannie pulls this information from the town meeting, all of the notes, and then go to the municipal association and just get what their suggestion is? I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you, Catherine, but to cover our basis, I think that we should have a backup as well.
Well, and I'm certainly happy to do that, but I think it's your decision as a selectman, as the select board, what you want to define. And the only reason that we're bringing this up, or that, you know, Dari brought it forward, is because we have gotten a request for an application. So that's nice, because once we start publicizing this, we're going to get more and more, and we want to make sure that when somebody comes in front of us, that they actually...
But if you're defining it as the downtown and village district, Catherine's not defining it as the downtown and village district according to 79. She's defining it as the town according to the master plan.
No. I'm reading you exactly what it says here. Qualifying structure means a building located in a district officially designated in a municipality's master plan or by zoning ordinance as a downtown, town center, ///. That's what the law says.
And I'm sure you must, because you were a Main Street program before. And
Right.
part of being the Main Street program is designating what your downtown district is. So there's got to be something somewhere that identifies that.
Yeah, the
have in
downtown
the
district was the downtown village district, which was the downtown and the village.
So the selectmen have always determined that downtown is from railroad track to railroad track.
Right.
But according to the RSA, it's what our master plan or zoning ordinance
Declare what the
declares
district
what
is.
it is. Now, I
Through
don't know.
that, we would decide.
And what does
Right.
that do? What does it declare, Catherine? Do you know
I don't
that?
know.
Do you know that, Dari?
I don't remember.
What the master plan declares as the district?
I can't say it off the top of my head, but I have done a little bit of research on this, and I would say that if you were asking me for a recommendation tonight, I would recommend that in the body of all the literature surrounding this, including the RSA and the guidance that's created by Plymouth State, by I think it was the New Hampshire Preservation Society that, anyway, guidance that we have, I would make a recommendation that we include the downtown district and the village residential district, and that we call those two districts our zone. And anyone in those two districts can apply, because those, I think, are clearly meet what was intended to.
I think historically it's one district, the downtown and the village district. I think historically you're
I-
gonna find it's one district.
Don't think in zoning it is it? I think it's two. Well,
Oh, no,
you know,
I think she's saying it used to be.
why don't we have Dari look at the master
Right.
plan and the zoning?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Use
Because
one
I
of
think
our-
it used to be.
And then he can highlight it with a map
We'll
Okay.
go
or
from
tax
there.
card, or the zoning, and show us where that, what that encompasses.
Another question on that, did you say historical?
Well, that's an extra caveat. Any
That's in there,
building,
right?
any building that is of historical.
Okay, so let's say I bought the house by the side of the road and I spent $110,000.
You can't because somebody just bought it.
What?
Well, let's say you had,
They
but
backed out. And I did that, so that $110,000 and that, I'd fall in that category, correct?
Sorry, I'm done.
so here's the definition of an historic structure according to the RSA.
Okay,
Historic structure means a building that is listed on or determined eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places or the State Register of Historical Places.
So it would have to be applied for and approved
It's
or
either-
previously approved.
Already
does this
listed or
person
it's
know
eligible.
that?
And if
does
I-
this person that's applying
and
know
if I
that?
did do that, if I did go ahead and do that and applied for it, then I would be eligible.
No matter where it is in town, according to the RSA.
Like the RSA, and so when we come up with our decision, we'll also address that.
Well, I think it's addressed for us, but yeah. Yes.
So go back to what you said a few minutes ago, you'd like Dari to do the research, looking at the zoning and the master plan, and come back and give you the definition.
Well, I think he could highlight in one of the
Okay.
zoning maps where those districts are.
And I'm sorry, I was sort of researching as you were talking. Were you saying that only historic structures are eligible? I'm not sure that's true. Okay, okay.
You're not sure it's true?
No,
Yeah.
that's a caveat to the downtown village district area.
Okay.
It says in this law that, in its Roman numeral 2, that it is further declared historic structures in a municipality. So anywhere in town
Yeah.
where you have a historic structure that qualifies with the definition I just read, would qualify. They wouldn't have to be in the downtown,
But no, I'm saying you don't, it doesn't have to be a historic structure in order to qualify.
Not downtown.
not downtown, no.
Okay.
There's two caveats
I
to
got
it.
what you're saying. All right.
But if it were in the village district, it would have to be a historical structure?
No.
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 Got it.
But if it is a historical structure, that's
We'll go verify all that.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the
All right.
task.
All right.
But we do have a couple of requests that are interested in this because it was voted on in town meeting. That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's nice that somebody's
Good
going
night.
to save.
Right.
Thanks, Sheena, thank you.
Thanks again, Sheena. Great job.
So the application.
Yeah, sorry, I should have handed this right out at the beginning. Here's the updated application. It's almost identical to what you saw last time. Added town and Tilton to the
Just
top.
put town and Tilton
Just
on
cleaned
the
up a
top.
little bit of formatting stuff.
So that's the old one.
Yeah,
I was like, at first I was like, why do I have two of these?
yeah.
Because I didn't a minute ago.
Yeah, so, I don't know if you want to, where you want to go with this tonight, but my takeaways from this are that I should research this more to see what went on. Is that right?
Who's eligible?
Who's eligible? Okay.
Because there's got to be boundaries to this somewhere.
Okay. All right.
But I think that needs to be done sooner than later, because as people start to apply, we don't want to hold them off while we're trying to make a decision on this side.
So I'll try. Is this board meeting next week? So I'll see if I can get something. Okay. All right.
So I just kind of scanned, excuse me, through it quickly, and one of my first question is, especially in the historical, is it somewhere in here, does it require them to show documentation?
Do you have the application in here?
He just
just gave
Just
it.
handed it out.
But I would
Did not
not
give
think
you
you have
one?
to, if it says they have to be here, you approve it.
Yeah.
There's, if you look on the bottom of page 2, well, that's just simply, if you're gonna replace a structure, there's language that I recall seeing about verification, but, I don't recall, I'm sorry, or I don't know.
So what was the question?
That's a replacement. Well,
Yeah,
it came to mind when I looked at the bottom, is the building listed for eligible National Register, blah, blah, blah. And so the question that came to my mind is, are they gonna have to document it, which I hope they would.
Hopefully.
and, you know, this is an application, again, you guys
Yep.
would have them before you, I suppose, if there's something you're not comfortable with, you could ask for additional documentation.
But they shouldn't even be before us without,
Okay.
the application even shouldn't even get that far.
All right.
If there's no documentation that,
That's why I
Okay.
questioned.
Well,
It could be
for a
something you would
historical
mention.
building.
Right.
but yeah, so it asks the question on the first page, but, so something right on the first page underneath, you should say, provide backup documents. You should just add a little language.
Yeah, maybe
Documentation.
Yeah.
provide documentation.
Yeah, provide
If,
documentation.
if answered yes, I hate it when it says that.
Yeah,
If you
but
answer
that's
yes,
the
it
word.
makes you want to answer no. If you answer yes, you have to jump through all these hoops.
Okay. You get that, Darren?
Provide better documentation.
Yeah, it just says, yes.
Provided.
Provide documentation.
Yes,
Provide supporting.
Yeah, supporting
Yeah,
documentation.
there you go.
Yep.
If you're claiming historic,
Okay.
what papers
So
you
I'll-
have.
Oh, Dari,
work on
this
that.
is some nice work.
Thank you. It's like one of the most tedious making forms.
I was gonna say, that
So-
I've done it myself,
It was-
and this is not fun.
So the morning that I was gonna get this to you guys, I was waiting for other towns to send it to me. And I had like 3 towns that I thought were gonna send it to me, and they start coming in. One was a publisher document, which I can't edit. So finally, I decided, all right, I gotta do this myself. And just put the whole thing together, you wouldn't believe, but it's, and then, hours later, the documents started flowing in from all the towns.
Well,
So,
perhaps you can send yours back to them, say, maybe you'd like to dump the one I
Yeah.
had.
For a fee.
yeah.
So with
This
that
is great.
change, are you good with?
Oh, no, I haven't read the whole thing. That
Okay.
was just, I got that far and had that question, and I thought we were gonna move on, so I wanted to get it out there.
Okay.
Do you want us to review it now?
Well,
I mean, you have all the bullets, so that's why I wasn't gonna read
it's
through
it's
it.
up to you. Yeah, it's
Do we want to do it now, or do we
If you.
want to submit it by next week when we clarify the whole thing and put it
I'm
all
good with
together?
it. I'm not here next week, but I'm good
You want
with
to
it.
look at it and send it?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I read the one you had given us before, and I thought it was, well,
Well, I mean, I'm not, no credit to me, that it's, most towns use almost the
So we can
same.
put the whole package together next Thursday and have it all approved.
Yeah, if we could
District.
decide next week, that would be great, because I haven't
Okay.
compared it with the.
I mean, this,
with the
it
law.
looks perfect, but some, you
Okay.
know, you
All right.
might even change it if you look at it.
Okay.
Just for your information, the template is provided by the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, correct? Isn't that?
I guess I don't know for certain where it originated. I called them and asked for a
When
copy.
I looked.
Okay.
And I called, and they provide the template. But anyway, we can, I suppose, have you look at it and approve it next week along with the zone or how, what
Nice.
that definition
Okay.
is.
All right.
Is this on our drive or anything?
What?
It's on the desktop of my computer right now, which
I
I
don't
know
know
is
if
the
it
worst
could get
place
shared to the
save
drive,
it.
because a lot of times it's easier, for me personally.
Can you save it to the
look-
drive,
look
to the
things
select,
up.
share it with the selectmen?
Yep,
You know, put draft or something on it. so-
okay.
You only send electronic, yeah,
Any of those things would be great too. I
Okay.
mean,
okay, good.
All right, thank you. So that's really the gist of it. There's just one more thing I wanted to mention. I know that recently a citizen came before this board because they weren't happy with the decision that the code enforcement officer made. And the board sort of made an additional decision on top of that. And obviously, I don't question for a moment that you have that authority. However, I did just want to remind folks about the administrative appeals process that is established in state statute for when a citizen disagrees with a decision made by an administrative official of the town. The proper procedure is for within 30 days of that decision, that citizen to go to the zoning board and submit an administrative appeal. Now, again, I don't want to harp on this particular case, but I just want to remind folks that that does exist in state law. In my mind, that's the proper procedure for addressing an issue that someone has with a decision that was made by an official of the town.
Any decision made by the code enforcement officer.
There are some parameters. I would say any decision made by the code enforcement officer in the pursuit of enforcing the zoning ordinance.
But I don't think that's what the issue was.
I don't want to get too much into it. I just wanted to make sure that,
So if it's a zoning issue, we need to allow it to go to the zoning within the
But
30
that
days.
wasn't the issue we decided on.
Okay.
The issue that the code enforcement officer stated is still standing.
I see what you're saying.
Oh, because once it gets put on the pad, he has to go.
I just thought it was
Don't have to
important.
go
We did not
through the
overrule the
process.
code enforcement officer.
As your town planner, I just felt it was important to I think we should always be reminding each other of what the applicable
Absolutely.
elements are, and it seemed close enough where it seemed appropriate to at least
No,
to talk about it.
yeah.
you're right. But know
It's
that
gonna
we
really
did
get
not
messed up if you
overrule
don't follow the
his
procedure.
decision. It still stands.
I see
It's
what you're
important that he
saying.
knows
Yeah.
that. It still stands.
I totally agree with what you're saying, because
Yeah.
there's still, and then other than that, I just gave you, I've been trying to give you guys a little rundown of some of the meetings that we've been participating in, TAC being a Transportation Advisory Committee, Stream Habitat Workshop that Selectman Jessamine attended. It was outstanding, and the list goes on.
What's the 2CC, Alex Ray? Down bottom. POT P3, is that?
Oh, yeah, so the application, I believe you've all seen that we've submitted for the regional commercial district. We've been trying to meet with the business owners in that district. I think it's possible that application won't get funded. It's a big dollar amount. You don't know. You gotta be,
You're going
you know.
tomorrow, right?
It looks like it was snowed out, actually. Or, no, not snowed out. I just got an email on something about due to a lack of quorum.
Oh.
I think it's been canceled. But,
But there are two pieces to it, and one is, and that's the reason that we're meeting with the business owners, is because if the state doesn't move forward, if we can engage the business community and they see a benefit. And I would say definitely the conversation with Alex was a good one.
very good.
Very nice.
We've had good
No, go ahead.
We've had good conversations with the gentleman who's, who I think manages the Hobby Lobby Plaza. And I think between a lot of those people in that area, maybe sometime in the near future, we could get that opening, reestablished, and that would be huge. It would benefit the businesses in there, and I think overall it would make the experience of coming to Tilton much, much better.
One question I have, and I've brought up numerous times, that I was there when they opened up, the diner opened up, and all the lot plans came before the Conservation Commission and the fire department, just to establish that whole area. And there was an airport there, on the runway. So, one of the things we tried to do is get the entrance exit, an additional exit, onto Route 140. And it was a big thing for the fire department that if there was an accident or that was blocked off, there would be no way to get to that property because it's surrounded by moats. So one of it is that they had to keep, in their original plans, conditions that they had to keep that bridge open for fire and safety. Now, it collapsed and it fell into the river, and it got closed up, and it got abandoned. So, that was part of the conditions of that property, and those people who developed that property should be responsible, or the butters, to replace that bridge. So it should not be such a big thing. And I'm wondering why, and I brought this up for a couple of years, why are we not enforcing that?
Well, I didn't know about that. I'll start with that. I think, so I can tell you that's one reason. I wasn't aware that they had come before the Conservation Commission and had that requirement. I don't know how long ago that was. It must have been, what, 15?
1996? 4?
No, the restaurant went in 91.
Was that a condition of the Conservation Commission or the site
I
plan?
believe it was a site plan.
Well, we can look at that. However, I will say, everyone we've talked to recently has been in favor of it. So it may be that,
The holdup, I have some familiarity with the process over there. I worked at the Tilton Diner for I still do occasionally. And I started in 94. The Shaws, the people who ran the Shaws Plaza, Shaws, their corporate structure kept that gate locked. And it was conjecture on my part, but it was about Applebee's. Applebee's, yeah, what's the one that's in there?
Applebee's.
It was about Applebee's, because if you could come in there and just go to Tilton Diner, it seemed stupid at the time, and Al wanted to open it. Now that crossing would never, the town would never accept that.
Nope.
All it was sand poured around a giant culvert with a little asphalt over the top.
It's not a culvert, it's a dryer
Whatever
drum.
it is, it's a giant opening.
Dryer drum to the asphalt plant.
Right.
One out drum and Milo
It's
just put
being
it in.
used as a culvert.
Yes.
In any case, the sand washed away on both sides. It was not built to any kind of.
We had a flood. That's what washed it out, was that flood.
So the
It was
point
a-
of our meetings with the folks over there is to try to get them all together and agree to get this resolved.
Nice.
Al wants to put a driveway on Route 140, and the state wouldn't let him because it's too close to the light.
yeah,
That's a federal highway
Oh,
corridor.
no,
The
that's a
federal
thing.
Well,
government
no, they
will
have
not
two,
let any more
they have a
access
right of
to
way
that
and then they have the
intersection.
strip, and it's the strip they're blocking.
it
We
would
need to
actually
move
be,
on.
because
And they can't.
It's
do
close.
that.
I go to
Trust
McDonald's
me.
a lot,
It's
and
a breathing
coming out of
process.
McDonald's, you're really close to the intersection. You'd be about that close
Yeah.
coming out on the
The
other side.
federal government said absolutely no. We talked to them when there was an issue with the exit, ingress and egress from that Franklin Bank, whole plaza area.
Mhm.
And that was one of the suggestions at the times, and
So
the
what,
Fed says absolutely no. And the reason that you can safely pull out of that little complex is because they decided to widen the median. And that was Captain Owen Wellington that came up with that.
Yep.
All the
So-
feds and
Still
DOT,
not a
Wait.
good thing.
that's what we did.
And Alan
Catherine.
Ray was talking about
Peter?
that.
the feds say we can't access 140, but McDonald's, which is right opposite that same spot's okay to egress?
They said no more. This was after McDonald's was in. They said that's it. They wouldn't allow anything else.
It is really close to
And
the
because of the
And
property
traffic
line
piles up.
back there.
Yeah, that's
you can't
exactly
come
right.
down as far as the
Stacking.
cars. You have to be up further.
So that's out.
You couldn't make it left.
And
turn.
on this, Chief Cormier has been a big help with this too.
Oh, yeah,
He
definitely.
scheduled a meeting last week, you see above the Alex Ray meeting. We had some folks from DOT and it looks like we may be able to make some progress outside of the P3 application to get a crosswalk connecting Tanger. It's kind of where VIP is. We can talk more about that. Chief and I are sort of.
Was the sidewalk running down Route 3 they were referencing by Old Navy, continuing toward Irving?
Touch BJ's.
So
There's no sidewalk.
there's no sidewalk. It's actually surprising, the lack of sidewalks in there. There is, so a piece of what we were talking about is, in order to do this, DOT would not be comfortable or okay with installing a crosswalk that just dumps right out into the Tanger parking lot, so that as soon as you get off the crosswalk, you're immediately back into danger.
Oh, okay.
And there would be a required sidewalk somewhere, maybe leading from the crosswalk to Old Navy or something like that, yeah. But yeah, I guess other than that, that's all I got.
We have a meeting tomorrow with Tanger.
What?
Second.
He hasn't replied yet.
Okay.
I'll try and bug him in the morning, yeah.
The only thing is, I guess we've now got another person piling snow on Bittern Lane.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So what can be done? Can
We have
we
another?
notify all the butters? Yeah, that somebody else is piling their snow.
I think it might be gone right now. I know
I went by today.
Al found out about it, he contacted the other
Oh.
business, and somebody told me that there was snow being moved there.
They were
this
actively
afternoon.
hauling the snow away with
Yeah.
dump trucks.
So, I'm not saying that it's okay to just keep going, for the next, 5 years with, they do something wrong, we tell them to move it, they move it, at some point, we can't just keep catching what's wrong, but I do feel, that we have had some good success with Al, making sure they understand all the elements of their requirements. Each one that you don't like to have to correct each little piece of the ordinance, but I must say, as he's making them aware of each piece, we are seeing activity.
One of the problems is Al has a process in place, so if you have a complaint, there's a form on the land use website to fill in for complaints. And maybe we don't publicize that enough on the front part of our website because, as busy as he is, sometimes sending an email,
So
he might
that's,
not see it as readily.
but that situation's been taken care of.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But, I mean,
In two ways, and the code enforcement officer responded as soon as he was made aware of the email. And then the public works was having problems with the same entity, so he actually went and posted the town land.
Okay.
So it got double duty. But as I said, the code enforcement, when he finally was aware of the email, he, again, took care of it.
Yeah.
But if it had been sent via the format that he checks readily for complaints, I think it would have been handled yesterday instead of today.
I just had a comment about that.
So maybe we
procedure.
should,
Is that if somebody is a code enforcement officer or there's any other town officials that go by and see a violation, they should address it. As opposed to sitting down and saying, well, none of the citizens have complained about it, so we're not going to do anything. I really think we have to be proactive, and when we have like an area like that, every time it snows, go over there and double check.
Yeah.
And any wetlands, take a ride by, and just do it, instead of relying on people to fill out a form. Because
Oh.
then it turns into kind of mayhem.
And I would say, Al, 4 days a week, does, when he's doing his inspections, he certainly keeps an eye out for violations.
Yeah.
And he sees one.
That
I
go
bet
into
you
that.
there are violations I don't find out about. I bet you the guy's out in there, the person's out in their lawn, he talks to them, and it's resolved. And then there are times there are days where he says, I'm making my rounds, and he actually reserves time to just be that observer, not always relying on the citizens to spot everything.
But
So I
any
fully
town
agree with you.
officials, or any of us that are a little more familiar with some of the things that go on to come right out.
Right.
and-
I'll tell you, I'm a town official and I drive by there at least twice a day. And I think, oh, I should look. And I get here and I go, oh, I didn't look.
That happened to me
Because
today.
I was going from point A to B. I didn't stop it.
Yeah, when
Eight-
I'm leaving my
8.1.
driveway there, and it's, oh, yeah, look at that.
Yeah, and I just
You
go.
don't remember anything, I listen, I appear to work.
It's a
You
whole
make a
trying to
good
get the
point,
words
John.
thing.
Thank you, Jerry. That
Okay,
was,
thanks a lot, have a good night.
That was
Thanks,
very,
Darren.
very thorough.
Very well done.
I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was
Appreciate your
nice.
time.
Kudos.
Thanks. Hello? Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, so the next thing we have on, did anybody have anything else to discuss on any of that? Gary's reports or anything?
I'm not going to be here next week, so go ahead. I'm all set with that application. So feel free to go ahead and vote on it.
Do that next week. Okay, next thing is town administrator report.
So everyone should have my weekly update in front of you. The first item is, and as I have done in the past, there are action items and just FYI items. The Municipal Management Association is offering a fellowship program for any community that would be interested. And that's basically a paid intern for 20 hours a week for approximately 5 months. The total cost you'll see is $7,300, which the hosting municipality would pay about $2,600. And I checked with Tim, and we have money in the budget, and you'll see it itemized there. And I thought this would be a great opportunity for us if you were interested in doing that. We could have this person help us with economic development if there are projects, because what they're looking for is projects that they would have work on minor projects, major projects, and anything else to give them a full experience in town government. So they might be able to help Gail with something, they might be able to help Tim with something, but for me, my primary interest is economic development. And I thought it was just a great opportunity, so I'm bringing that forward.
So moved.
So seconded.
Thank
Any
you.
discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
I do have a little bit of discussion. I know the horse is out of the barn here, but economic development encompasses a lot of things. Who's going to decide what this person is working on? Dari? You? The combination? The Board of Selectmen? Or
Well, what I would propose is that I would have a conversation with Dari, I'd have a conversation with Tim and Gail to see what's going on in the next, because it will be in the summer, and then come up with a proposal that we would then put in front of the selectmen for you to say yes or no.
would it be possible for the Selectmen's Committee, the Downtown Tilton project, to get in on that?
Well, I would.
Because it's economic development, that's why, and it is a Selectmen's Committee.
I think the person should be isolated to in town hall, not to a committee.
Wasn't that, it came out wrong.
Because committees are investigating.
Actually, with
Do you
investigating,
have an,
nobody's
maybe you can
business.
give me an example of what you're thinking?
I don't know, this is just a what if. I know we have a seminar for people that, on the 28th, that it is for people who are thinking about opening businesses downtown. That would be an example of economic development. Is that person that we're talking about on the peripheral edges of that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just would hate to exclude a resource if you know.
Well, I would say it's something I wouldn't say no to. I would prefer to keep it in town hall. When I look at the things that need to be done, the master plan update, personnel policies, there are so
So you have
many.
an agenda.
I do have an agenda.
Okay, never mind then.
But I'm not
Okay.
excluding anyone.
Yeah, okay. No,
Because
I get it.
Tim may have a big project that he might want some, and the point is to provide this person with some educational opportunity.
Okay.
And we're going to pay part of that
Yeah, yes,
fee.
yes.
Did we decide where it was coming from?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's also.
right there.
Land use activities fund?
And admin budget for outside
And
contracts.
there's that account from Franklin Savings Bank that Tim says has just been sitting there doing nothing.
That's the one that should be used. There's more than enough in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it
take it from
doesn't
there
matter.
first,
Because there
right?
was 3 different options there.
Right.
All right, thank you. So we've already discussed the second bullet. The third bullet I wanted to ask you about, I am on the board of the New Hampshire Municipal Association, and in our last meeting, there are several items that they're working on to bring the money back to the cities and towns. And one in particular is the meals and rooms revenue, to get the catch-up formula in place and bring that money back to the cities and towns. There's also the state aid to bridges. There's also the money that was promised by the increase in the gas tax, and trying to bring some of that money back. So my question to you is, are you comfortable, would you be okay with me? No one's asked me yet, but since I have background and experience in it, and I can speak with experience on it, and then now I'm representing Tilton, would you be okay, as long as it's just on town and city issues? And I would let you know before I
Love to
did.
have you
Okay.
testify.
All right.
Absolutely.
Good.
Show us the money.
So we're going to have the public hearing on the housing standards ordinance. We're going to post it on the website, the kiosk, and the bulletin board. There was some discussion last week about posting it in the newspapers, and I just wanted to,
When is the public hearing?
it's going to be when you're back. So that's March,
Well, we talked about doing it March 7th. for
Yes.
just-
yes.
Well, everything but the overcrowding. I think that's what Pat was suggesting.
So my question to you was, do you want to spend the money to put it in the newspaper, or is it sufficient to put it on the website, the kiosk, and the bulletin board?
I think that since we do have a lot of landlords that are out of town, that if we could put it in the Daily Sun, which probably gets a wider circulation than the Echo, I'm not certain, that would do our due diligence to trying to notify those out-of-town landlords.
Yep.
If they're out of town, shouldn't you use the Boston Globe?
Well, I'm saying that because I know a lot of them in the Laconia and the outlying towns. And all that.
Should we send a letter?
It's a lot of landlords.
To every landlord?
Well, does it exceed the $73 to send out letters,
Oh, yeah.
postcards? Or something?
Yeah, down to.
How many landlords do we have, do you know?
No, but I know it's a lot.
There's a lot of landlords.
We're wondering if we're going to get through all of them in 3 years.
Certainly, we have some time, and I can talk to Dari about what we have for landlords. I mean, I don't know who just set up postcards, a good idea, that's pretty inexpensive. If you want to make sure that they're,
The problem is there isn't a list out there. I mean, I have somewhat of a list that came from Avatar, but our housing ordinance also includes single-family homes that are leased or rented. So they don't show up necessarily on Avatar's list as a rental unit. They're showed up as a single-family home.
and there's a really good project for a intern.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of them because I've been called by tenants, occupying, but
We posted in the Daily Sun when and how many times, and I've been told that Saturday is the most popular.
Yeah, we can figure that out. But do you want it more than once, or is once enough?
What do we get for $60?
Once.
Once.
And I will research the postcard and,
I actually like the idea of putting it in the localist newspaper as well.
So it's 75 for the Echo,
The Echo
73
and
for the
Daily
Echo.
Sun. Yeah.
I would do it the Echo. Because a lot of people click online to Salmon Press and look all in the area for all of them.
A lot of tenants get it and tell their landlords.
And they're distributed free in local spots, so, and not that the Sun hasn't.
you want to put them in both?
Once
I
in
read
each?
both, yeah.
Well, you can also do it, I know you can't do it on it.
So
I'm
once
sorry,
in
you
each?
can't on a
One
public
in each.
hearing.
One in each, do I hear a second on that?
Yes, second.
Great.
It's consensus, right? We're good with that,
We
right?
have a motion.
Okay, a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Perfect
Opposed?
place to use our,
I have no idea
Perfect.
what the motion is.
place to use our
Put
Facebook.
an ad in each one.
Oh,
Once in each one.
Isn't this a perfect opportunity to use our Facebook
So are you
page
clear
that
on
we
the
have?
vote? Hang on 1 second, let's back up because we're voting on a motion.
Yep.
We had a motion, seconded by Joe. We voted on it, and there was, the results of the votes was, I know we had 2 ayes,
No, I
aye and aye, and you ayed,
Mhm.
3 ayes.
no.
And I, we had
Four
one,
ayes, okay.
one nay.
I didn't know if you had that.
I was no lie.
Thank you.
All right.
He was blind.
Great. All right, thank you. The next bullet,
Yes, Pat, we'll make sure it's on the website.
Well, we have a Facebook. Is that up and running yet?
yes.
It is?
Mhm. You should become friends.
I am, but I
Okay, so next thing,
All right.
not on Facebook that often.
The moderator would like to meet with you on March 7th to discuss the town meeting.
Bring them on.
In his email, he noted that he was advised by New Hampshire Municipal Association that we should have legal counsel at town meeting.
Why?
Ooh. You'd be kidding me.
So,
Every year, doesn't it?
No.
Did
He does every year.
He says it every year, yeah.
So I did call NHMA today,
Yep,
just to follow up.
yep.
And Steve Buckley said, yeah, they do recommend it. It's not required, but they recommend it. So that's what
so it's not for anything in particular, it's just,
A safety thing.
I don't know that you have anything.
I don't think, usually, I mean, it really hasn't come up.
I can't think, I've been doing it like 10 years, and I
Have
can't
you
think
ever
of a
had legal
single
counsel?
instance that a lawyer would have chimed in on.
Have you ever
Not
had
once.
legal counsel?
Yes,
Okay.
about,
Last year, did you?
No.
okay, no, I'm gonna say.
Few years ago.
16 years ago?
No, a few years ago, we had legal counsel on the building,
of the park, wasn't
there was a,
it?
Business
Yeah,
Park Drive.
it was either Business Park Drive or it was, the police building, the first police building, there was
Don't
legal
say
counsel.
first police building, because
That's a
that
lot of
started
years ago.
before I became a selectman.
And, so I'm talking about, it was way before I was the selectman.
That was Charlie Chandler.
So do we want to have
That was about 15 years ago.
Yes, no, consensus says
I say no.
No.
Consensus so far is no.
Okay.
Although Joe loves lawyers, I believe.
I do have feelings about lawyers.
So on the backside, it's
Feelings.
just,
Yes.
on the backside of my report is just FYI for you to take a look at. I would point out to you for next week's agenda, there's just a little background on the second item you might want to look at so you're prepared when that item is on the agenda for next week. I just gave you a little bit of background of where that's at.
So, for next week's agenda, I really do wish I was here, but I'm sorry I'm not, because Joyce and I have been the only ones that have dealt with them. So, I feel really bad.
I went with you.
Why are they
With-
coming in? I'm kind of reading it into this, but are they coming in because,
I think I put in there why I think. I expect this conversation with you will be about the lease and about settlement.
Right.
And
and
that's
we've
what-
already told them no? Okay, so then, all right.
Don't blow it. Just, come on. Work with them.
Right, so I just put it there. I just put it there as, so you were prepared for the meeting.
Catherine, do you want me to vote for you or not?
I'm done with
No.
my report. Does anyone have a question for me? Any questions?
Is there background information on the Sarnas that
Yes.
you can get
That's
us?
why I gave you the synopsis, but I can provide another backup.
Yes.
Well, it talks, like the underlined sentence? Could we get that?
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yes.
we probably have, but I'm just saying if there's any
Oh,
paperwork.
I have all
I
that.
have a
Okay,
question. We
before
have some
next week.
expenditures, I think, that were caused by the flooding. That's covered by the insurance. That's all.
I actually talked to Primex today. We are waiting for 2 more issues that need to be resolved. The knee wall here, the ceiling down in the hallway needs to be repaired, but all the other invoices are in. They're paying one directly. We sent that to them today. For SoPro, the other ones I'm collecting, we do have a $1,000 deductible, and once these 2 outstanding issues get resolved, then everything will be done.
That's going to take.
Should we have the Public Works Director here next week for that discussion?
Discussion of,
The parking lot. I mean, the wall. Or is he new enough that he wouldn't have enough background
He
information?
doesn't know
I
that
did
much
talk to
about
him
it.
today just to find out what he had to say about that, to see if there are any issues. I mean, he's very good. He put up the sawhorses, and he's been regularly monitoring that, and he said there have been no issues, so.
You know,
Does he?
it might be good, you know, Kevin's good with working with people, and it might be
And
good
he
if
was
he's
there,
here.
and he was there when I met with the Cernos,
Oh,
Annette, yeah.
So should we have him here?
Hmm. Yes.
I think it would be a good idea, because Kevin can work it out with them and give them a sense of confidence. We can all work together. Good at that.
I will,
See if he wants to do that or me.
do you want to do this or do you want Pat? I'll let you two.
Yeah.
I have two things. Are we going to do selectmen's report? We're going to do selectmen's reports first.
Yeah, we can do selectmen's report.
The last 10 weeks you started with Catherine. Just so noted.
10 weeks?
At least.
I thought it was 9. I like giving numbers.
At least.
Okay, keep it up.
So I have two items that just want to bring FYI. This Tilton Senior Center will be collecting emergency food items for the Plymouth senior housing that caught on fire up there. There's 20 people that were relocated, and they're mostly back in okay shape, but they need, Emily has been talking with them, and right now they're in need of emergency management, restock the emergency pantry. So we'll put out a letter and we'll have a collection up at the senior center, and then we'll deliver it all up to Plymouth to help out with the 20 families that have been, 20 seniors that have been.
And this is for food?
This is for food.
What types are you looking for?
We're they're gonna get a list. The emergency management, Colleen Kenny from the Plymouth Emergency Management is sending Emily a list via email of the supplies needed to restock it. And so when we get that email, what I'll do is email it to the board, and so that you'll all know. So if we can get that maybe put out on the website, so that people will know that this is needed, and it can be dropped off at the, we'll have a time frame to be dropped off at the senior center, and then Em and the rest of a couple of other people will bring it up to Plymouth.
Can we post it around town at some of the businesses?
That'd be great. That'd be great. Unfortunately, I'm just not going to be here to do that. The second thing is I'm not going to be here, but I will be available by phone if you needed a vote conference on Thursday evening. You know, just going to be with my sister, so I'm sure that will be understood. Okay, that's it. That's all I got.
We'll go around the table. Peter?
I'm good.
I don't have anything at the moment.
This Old Home Day Committee is discussing Citizen of the Year, and between now, we're gonna start discussing it on the 20th of March. So they're looking for a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen, and they're also taking recommendations from the public at large. If you have somebody that you would like to nominate for that,
I do. Can I have nomination right now?
you can do whatever you like. You can do it as a private citizen. We can do it as a Board of Selectmen. It works a myriad of
Seriously?
ways. Myriad, you like that one, Kevin?
I like that word.
It's private.
Hmm?
We keep those like kind of.
We keep it
So
private.
we try to.
We try to keep it private. That's why I was going to write it down, but you've got all sticky
So
notes
it's kind of a
down there.
surprise, and
In the
if
dark
that
hole.
person doesn't win, you know, it's like, So, between now and the 20th of March, in any case.
The
We'll talk about
20th
it.
of March?
I'll bring it up again. What?
What color would you like?
Yeah.
Not that color.
There's a few right there. They're all stacked up.
Yeah, I can do pink.
How bold.
Do you want to give that to Gail, and Gail can be the keeper?
So they
of
can
it?
put it,
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, okay.
That's what I was thinking.
this will all come through town hall.
Oh, okay, never mind it. I don't want to know. That would be awkward.
Okay, so, Catherine, do you have anything else to discuss?
I do, because,
No, that was it. Citizen of the Year.
you're the cheat.
I know.
needs to happen.
We cannot have attorneys.
Okay.
I would never
So
vote
it
for
won't
that.
upset him.
I would never vote for the
So,
attorney, sorry.
because Pat's not gonna be here
Yeah,
next
didn't want to
year,
set
and
him
I've been
up.
trying to.
Next week,
Oh,
not next year. Thank you.
Sorry.
You know, so she doesn't?
No, it's been a long day, trust me. The changes to the housing standard, the overcrowding, I just want, because you talked mostly about the size of the room. The International Residential Code, which is a state building code, those standards are already set. So we can make them stricter, so we can make the room sizes smaller, but we can't make them bigger.
Aren't you backwards?
No.
Yeah, we can make them bigger, we can't make them smaller. There's a
We
minimum.
can't, oh yeah, I'm sorry, we can't make them less stringent. So if they're saying, this is the smallest they can be, we can't, But the overcrowding is the number of people in that room.
So are they grandfathered?
No.
So if my room was built if my house was built in 1890, and it exists like that, and I've been paying taxes on it for 65 years, and my family has grown up in that building, and now they're off and married, and it's just me and my husband, and I'm still paying taxes on it as a 3-bedroom, 2-family dwelling, and it's identical, and it's one wall's just under 7 feet. So
What's the other
it's
wall?
not grandfathered.
What's the other wall?
So, the International Residential
Not
Code for
65
room
square feet.
dimensions, minimum area, so
It doesn't fit that.
this is the state of New Hampshire uses the 2009 building codes, and we have a committee and they update them. This has been updated nationally, but the state of New Hampshire has not. So right now, our code is every dwelling unit shall have at least one habitable room that shall have not less than 120 square feet. That's been crossed out of the current edition, the 2018. The second one is other rooms. Other habitable rooms shall have a floor area of not less than 70 square feet. So outside of New Hampshire, the second one, what they did is they crossed out other rooms, and that's where their room size begins. Habitable rooms shall have a floor area. So all rooms in a house, except for a kitchen, have to have not less than 70 square feet. Minimum dimensions, habitable rooms shall...
All rooms, including my laundry room?
Office and sewing room?
Habitable. You don't live in a laundry room.
Habitable room.
Habitable rooms,
Okay.
except for kitchens. So in New Hampshire, it's still 120 square feet. So you'll have one room That's not less than 120 square feet. Minimum dimensions, habitable room shall not be less than 7 feet in any horizontal dimension.
Shall not be.
Portion, so not less than what, 7 by 7, is that what I'm reading? Portion,
It's in an L shape.
and then it just says portions of a room with a sloping ceiling less than 5 feet will not be part of that
So, go ahead.
dimension.
With the sloping ceiling,
Oh, height effect on room area. Portions of a room with a sloping ceiling measuring less than 5 feet or a furred ceiling measuring less than 7 feet from the finished floor to the finished ceiling shall not be considered as contributing to the minimum required habitable area for that room. So the question you asked, existing structures. The legal occupancy of any structure existing on the date of adoption of this code shall be permitted to continue without change, except as specifically covered in this code, the International Property Maintenance Code, or the International Fire Code, and this code was referring to the International Residential Code, or as is deemed necessary by the building official for the general safety and welfare of the occupants and the public. So if it's a safety issue, then no, it cannot continue to exist.
so if it's just an L-shaped bedroom and it's not a safety issue, then it can exist. It can be grandfathered.
If it's not considered a safety issue, so that would be by the fire district, the life safety officer, it's not a safety issue as far as egress for emergency, blah, 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 then yes, it could be continued to exist. But the overcrowding, as I said, is designed, I mean, we've run across a couple of cases now where, one in particular,
Then I would be covered.
the double bed that was in there was maybe 8 inches on one side to get out of, and there were 6 people occupying it.
Well, those are extremes. And my concern is right now we have a major shortage of workforce housing in the state. What's actually affecting the economy. And if we go and make it so that like a couple can't stay in a room unless, if it's like 9 foot by 10, you can't have a couple staying in that room. You couldn't, if you couldn't stay in that room with your wife, that room would become uninhabitable. Or if you had like an 8 by 10 room, you put a bunk bed in for your kids, that's illegal.
No, let me,
2 people. It has
No,
to be
you'd
50
have to-
square feet
so
per person.
if you look at
100
the
square feet, 8
overcrowding,
by 10 is
the-
80 square feet.
If you look at the proposed overcrowding ordinance and figure the dimensions, you'll figure it out. But you have to remember, these are also guidelines.
But you're asking 65 square feet, right? Per person.
50 square feet per person occupying that room.
So you need 100 square feet for 2 people.
So a kid's room with a bunk
That's 10 by
bed.
10.
kids are 50%,
Yeah, if
aren't
it's an 8
they?
by 10 room.
Oh, I'm
Kids are
screwed then.
rated 50%, I believe.
But,
So-
so the reason I'm
Separate
bringing this
bedrooms.
up is not for debate, it's to get input for what kind of dimensions you are suggesting. Because we keep coming across bedrooms that are being occupied by so many people that,
And does this apply to like?
So if you have an 8 by 10.
Dormitories?
I have an 8 by 10 bedroom.
So the dormitories are.
this is
exempt.
apartments. These are apartment dwelling units. Dormitories is another category.
Okay, and at the Tilton School, they have apartments for faculty there.
That would be a different category because that's within a dormitory building.
Right.
And that doesn't apply to hotel rooms or anything like that?
No, the residential code divides it all. So these are
My big
R2.
concern is
This
the
is-
lack of workforce housing, the age of the houses in our community, where, we've.
Okay, so what size, what are you looking for square foot per person?
So most of our village district, in our village district area, if you ask my neighbors, because I asked in this last week, what are your bedroom sizes? And a lot of the people say they're 8 by 10. So if you have a husband and wife in an 8 by 10 bedroom, it's not 100, it's not 50 square feet. But they're
that's okay.
old. I mean, they're old.
And that's okay, but that's what I'm looking for because we can change this
So you have the
To
village
adapt
district.
for-
In your newer homes, they're 10 by 10, 10 by 14.
Well, newer
you know,
homes
master
constructed
bedrooms,
have
things.
to be constructed by today's standards.
Right, I don't think they ever had master bedrooms back in the 1900s. They were lucky they had a bedroom.
So-
No, they did, because I have one.
Oh, okay, so, you know, I think in our district where we live, if you ask our neighbors, they say, 8 by 10.
So it's 8 by 10, 80 square feet
Yeah,
for two people.
yep,
Is that what we're looking for?
yeah.
I don't know.
I would say that
I
that
really
was
don't know. I don't know.
Not if they're fighting.
for an older New Englander, home in the early 1800s. I mean, Gail, you have an old home. How big are the bedrooms there? Oh, okay. All right.
So those
Well,
are
I
concerns.
can start off the 8 by 10.
And the big thing is that if we're going to assess people for having bedrooms, and then we tell them that they can't rent them out, then we're gonna have to reassess the properties. Because that would no longer be, let's say, a 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom house.
Right, and that's my point, because you're going to say, I'm renting a 3-bedroom
Pay less
apartment,
taxes.
which I can't rent
And
a
that could
3-bedroom
actually
apartment.
hurt us
Right,
and raise the
Well, yeah,
taxes.
and
on-
that's fine, and we need to take all that into consideration. I was just trying to get an idea.
right.
Those-
Well,
What
that was
square
my panic
footage-
last week, right.
Square footage you're looking for.
I don't know.
So
I would
8 by
say-
10, I'll start with
Eh,
that.
Right, because, okay, well, let's just take my personal experience, and I've asked my neighbors, but my personal home is 8 by 10. One is 10 by 10, but 8 by 10, 8 by 10, and then an L-shaped. And I'm being assessed and taxed on a 3-bedroom
Okay.
duplex.
I'll take,
3-bedroom, 3-bedroom, both sides.
I will take that, and we can take that overcrowding section right out of.
I'm not overcrowded unless you count dogs, and then I'm way overcrowded.
I can take some.
And you could take the dogs instead of the bedrooms.
No. I don't know if my cats would like that. I'll take the time to look through some of the older homes on the tax cards, because it gives dimensions of the bedrooms.
Great idea,
So I will look at those,
All right.
compare this. It'll take some time, is what I'm saying.
Right.
So
great
you don't
idea.
have to rush in the overcrowding. It's.
Okay, that's a good idea.
It's,
No,
when
I
we find the
agree.
worst, we can deal with
You
that.
go in there and it's unsafe like that.
Yep,
I just like our housing ordinance to, people look at it, it's right there.
Right.
Even though it's already in the code, they don't have to look for it.
right,
All right, thank you.
got it. John, do you have anything for us tonight?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
You have the one outstanding item before.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can take care of that.
Yeah, go
So,
for it.
We're looking at the town report, which we've all spent time editing and going through it. Thanks
Proofing.
everybody for doing that proofing. There's one thing that nobody seemed to have a problem with here, and that was on the page 1. On page 1, it says, the 2018 town report of Town of Tilton annual report is dedicated to Jane Alden.
Woo-hoo!
That's Jane there.
That's our official copy.
This is a
It's
draft.
approved.
This is our proof. You want to come up and take a look? Look at that.
How close can you get to the camera before it blurs?
It says, it's a great picture. You've got, yeah, you got the Patriots there.
Oh
And
my
it
gosh,
just,
is that
it
your
says
mom?
Jane is a past recipient of the year, Citizen of the Year Award from Tilton. She also received her NH State Committee on Aging Joseph D. Vaughn Award, recognizing for her outstanding leadership and meritorious service as volunteer on behalf of New Hampshire's older citizens.
Older than me.
Emphasis on that. Jane has been the chair of the Budget Committee. Let's see, where go glasses on here. Jane has been a long-standing member and former chair of the Planning Board, member and current chair of the Budget Committee. She's just as acting serving on the committee, related boards and committees including the Fire District, Budget Committee, and the Winnisquam Regional School District Budget Committee. Jane is not one to be underestimated. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree as well as 2 master's degrees. During her career in business, she held progressively higher managerial positions at AT&T until her retirement. Through Jane's actions as planning board member and involved citizen, she demonstrates a deep understanding of the reality that here in the Lakes region of New Hampshire, environmental protection, economic development go hand in hand as integral elements of the community development. Her approach is tenuous, but her reasoning is always well considered. Jane has a special place in her heart for the town of Tilton, is giving to anyone who asks for our guidance. Ask her for her guidance. But there you go. You're going to get a copy of that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Do I get to keep it?
No, that's
You're going to
approved.
get your own, that's just a
Yeah,
proof.
That's just a
But
proof.
you're going to get your own, but we wanted to give it to you ahead of time before everybody, it goes out to print. So
We'll give
that
you a corrected copy.
So you'll get your own
We'll give you a
special
corrected
copy.
There's a couple
Thank you very much.
But
changes.
every year it's dedicated to somebody that serves the community well, and we couldn't think of anybody better that serves the community that's been on so many committees at one time. So,
John, you didn't clap.
and you can have an extra copy to send to Helen. You can take an extra copy to send to Helen.
Adjourn and then
Yeah.
come
We,
back.
you know, we're ahead of schedule. If there's anything else people want to discuss with the selectmen right now that
Do you have
our
a,
attention, a couple minutes here.
how are you going to do this? As a moderator for the thing, are you asking questions and then opening it to public? Is that how you're going to do it? Going to have them all sit up here? Got it.
So we'll adjourn and then set up and then open back up.
Yeah. No other business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those
When we're
in
done-
favor,
Aye.
say aye.
When we're done, we're done.
Opposed? So moved. We're adjourned, then
Can't we do that?
At 7.
we're adjourned
Oh, I'm not gonna
now,
go
and
anywhere.
then
I'm
we're
just
just going to
gonna
go
go
right
now.
into.
Introducing all the candidates, and as I call your name, if you'll just stand up. Then we're going to have a forum with questions for the selectmen candidates, followed by a forum for the sewer commissioner candidates. In each forum, we'll provide an opportunity for the audience to ask questions, if they want. We'll end by giving each uncontested candidate an opportunity to say a few words about themselves and why they're running, if they'd like to do so. So let's start with introducing the candidates. For the town of Tilton, Tilton Select Board, 3-year term, Joe Jessamine. Richard Olson. Eric Pyra. Catherine Dawson.
For the 1 year.
Yes, for the 1 year. And Jason Wright for the 1 year. For Sewer Commission, we have Richard Olson and Jason Wright. For Trustee of the Trust Funds, we have Stanley Robinson. For the Budget Committee, and I don't see Christine here, Dembinski.
No,
Nope.
I don't see Christine.
Okay. Treasurer, Sandra Hislop. For Winnisquam Regional School District, we have Kent Finnemore. Is he here from Northfield?
No.
Okay. School Board, Jason Stock. Bridget Puffenberger. Not here. Christina Flanders. For Budget Committee on the Winnisquam Regional School District, Jane Alden. Deborah Worth from Northfield, not here. Charles Flanders from Samberton, not here. For the Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS District, the moderator Kent Finnemore. For clerk Stephanie Giovannucci, not here. For commissioner John Silly. Caitlin Lounsbury. And Preston Schaub. And I just have to say, it's great to see some young people running for office, so thank you. All right, we're going to start out. That's not you, Jason. We're going to start out with the selectman candidates. So all the candidates who are running for selectman, both the three.
And the role of the commission is basically, it's the select board of the sewer. It's the stepchild that, off to the side that was split off by charter, and we oversee maintenance, installation. We have the authority to put it in where we see fit, but when we need a bond, we come to the town for bonding authority, and usually that's granted. I've responded to a few calls. Our auto dialer, we just changed from landline to cellular, as our system had a little glitch with lines being down causing a problem, so we reinvested so we could get those calls faster, and it only has 3 numbers that you can program into it, so our administrator gets the calls, and she's the daytime staff person, and usually reacts to those calls and calls on the either a pump company or repair or a pump truck to get a tank pumped down. And then the rest of us would get notification on our cell phones and go out. And I've been out and shoveled out pump stations and every other bit, so there's a lot to it.
Thank you, Jason. Second question, starting with you, Jason. Being a sewer commissioner requires you to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to respond to emergencies. Will you be prepared and available to respond?
Again, I've been available and willing, and there are many times when my phone goes off. A lot of times, if it's a power failure, you get that first call automatically that, oh my gosh, the power's out. But a lot of our pump stations have generators, and then you get another call that says, okay, it's all set. Again, Peters has the most experience in usually responding. If he can't get to it, he reaches out. We all talk amongst ourselves and each other to make sure we get it taken care of. So for the last 12 years, I'd say no problem. I'm ready for another 3.
Thank you. Dick?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure, sorry. Being a sewer commissioner requires you to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to respond to emergencies. Will you be prepared and available to respond?
Absolutely. I actually have some experience responding already to the calls. I've actually been with Peter to many of the pump stations in the summertime when they malfunction. I have experience with pumps and septic pumps and grinder pumps and generators as well. I'm pretty handy with pairing things. So sometimes when we went to those pump stations, I could actually assist and get the pump station actually going back again. So it saved us time and stopped a couple times from it overflowing.
Okay, thank you. Last question, starting with Dick. Are you familiar with the infrastructure of Tilton's sewer system?
I feel like I'm not as familiar as I want to be, and I want to learn, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to put in the time to learn. I do know some of the pump stations, only the ones that have acted up in the last summer that I've had the opportunity to go out with Pete and check out. But I really do think I could get a good grasp on it within a short amount of time, and I would put the due diligence to study and get to know the program.
Thank you. Jason? Are you familiar with the infrastructure of the Tilton sewer system?
All too well. Part of our regulatory compliance at the federal level was we had to embark upon a project to camera and inventory all our lines, all our inventory. So we hired out a couple of different companies and to go and start locating, because there's, like I said, we're talking with Dave, there's stuff that's in somebody's head, or we don't have complete as-built drawings of every project that was ever done going back to the beginning of municipal sewer. There's clay pipe, there's Burmaco pipe, there's iron, there's all kinds of different mixed pipe. So we embarked on that project, and I'll tell you, you're not going to see it on Netflix or DVD, but the camera footage is magnificent, and So yeah, I'm pretty well familiar, and having walked the most recent Lockmere project when it was before it was even shovel ready, I know that one very well. And this West Main Street, hopefully we can pull that through. That'll be the newest gem in the fleet.
Great, thank you. So now we'll open it up to questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question for Jason or Dick relative to the Sewer Commission?
Exciting stuff.
No one. All right, well, I want to thank you both for stepping up to run. Thank you for showing up tonight to answer questions, and you can go have a seat.
All right.
So, now we'll start with the uncontested races, and we'll give those folks who are running for these uncontested seats to say a few words if they'd like. And you'll have 3 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourselves and why you want to run for office, and then if there are any questions from the audience, we'll let that happen. For trustee of the trust funds, Stanley Robinson, would you like to say a few words? Very few.
I am Stanley Robinson. I've been an attorney in the Lakes region since 1980. I've lived in Tilton since 2004 in the old Chalet Rouge. I have run for various political offices, and I have run my business for 35 years or more. And I want to do something to be helpful to the community, so I agreed to try to learn how to be a trustee of the trust fund. I've read the Trustees Trust Fund Handbook 3 times, and I'm sort of getting what the idea of it is. I'm going to do my best to try to make sure that we invest the money the best we can. And we all know what happened in December. We wouldn't know what to have done in December as the stock market went, but at any rate, it's coming back. So I just want to help the town, and I'm willing to do so by being a trustee of the trust funds.
Thank you, Stanley. Does anyone have a question for Stanley? All right, if not, I think what there are no questions. You're off the hook.
I can't think of what
So I think what I'll do is I'll ask all the rest of the candidates, because I think we have room up here, just have you all come up and all at once and have a seat. So that would be Sandra Hislop, Jason Stock, Jane Alden, John Silly, Caitlin Lounsbury, and Preston Schaub. Everybody got a seat? Everybody's got a seat. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the list, and after you've got 3 minutes to introduce yourself, say why you're running, watch Gail over there. After we've gone through everyone, I'll just open it up to the audience and see if anyone has any questions. Does that sound fair? All right. Sandra, running for treasurer. Want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Speaking
Sure.
of the microphone.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Sandy Hislop. I have lived in Tilton. I was born and grew up in Belmont, but I've lived in Tilton for quite a while, probably 20 years. And I've been treasurer of the town of Tilton for 15 years. The opportunity came up to be treasurer of the school district about 5 years ago, so I also am the treasurer of the school district. I work well with our finance officer, Tim Pearson, here at the town. and I enjoy what I do. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, thank you, Sandy. For school board, Jason Stock from Tilton.
Jason, my name is Jason Stock. I'm on the school board. I represent the town of Tilton. I'm trying to figure out, I think it's been about 9 years, kind of lose track of these things. I've been on the board for about 9 years. I'm currently the chairman of the board. Why I did it was really out of a sense of giving back to the community. I have 3 young sons that have come up through the school, through the Winnisquam school system, and I wanted to be a part of that process. And I thought a good way to kind of get engaged and be a part of that process was to step up and run and get on the school board. And that's what I did. It's been an incredible experience. It's been very eye-opening, and it's something that I also try to instill in my kids, that when you're a part of a community, you need to get engaged, you need to get involved, you need to volunteer for something. And that's just kind of how the Stock family is wired, and that's something we try to engage in them. One of the things that I wanted to, there was a question earlier for the selectmen, and I got to be careful with the 3-minute limit here, about the biggest challenge, and Joe mentioned the opioid piece. And I can tell you, as a school, being on the school board and having just gone through the budget process and looking at the impacts and some of the challenges that our community is facing, and kind of even the relatively short period of time that I've been involved in it, and seeing kind of the demographic shifts and some of the shifts that we've seen, it's pretty alarming. And I think as a school board, schools are a huge part of our community, and again, why I'm running for another term is I want to continue to be a part of this process, and continue to try to contribute to this, and try to help us navigate through this tough time that we as a community and a society are going through. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jason?
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. For the Budget Committee, Jane Alden.
Hi, I'm Jane Alden, and it's kind of interesting because I was never involved in politics before, but I moved to Tilton 18 years ago, and I think my first stop was in the Tilton Town Hall, and I haven't stopped since. And I'm running for my 3rd term as Budget Committee for the Winnisquam Regional School District, and as Jason said, it's been a real eye-opener to me. My first term, I was assigned a cost center that involves special education. And I have seen unbelievable changes in the field of special education, the needs in special education, and they're all a result of what Joe talked about, and that's the drug crisis. It not only affects the parents, but it affects the children. And it would be shocking, I think, if any of you stopped by. I know the first time I went to Union Sanborn, I was shocked because there were 2 lockdowns in the little bit of time I was there because of some of the special needs children. It's eye-opening, and I, like Jason, would like to continue to see what we can do to help that. And I think if you come to the district meeting this year, you'll see how that's impacting the tax rate and the budget for our local schools, and it's something people should get involved in. And as I say, it's been a real eye-opener, and I'd like to continue working on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Any questions for Jane?
Dick.
I just have one question. Dick Olson. The opioid epidemic has really hit my generation really hard. And a lot of my friends that I went to high school with are no longer here anymore. And that's pretty hard for me. So I just didn't know if you guys had any ideas on what you guys were going to do about the opioid epidemic. I know everyone's talking about it, but I just wanted to know if you guys had any new ideas. Thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It sounds like either one of you.
I'll take a shot at it. I mean, you know, this opioid epidemic is, you have to hit it at, my assessment is, you have to hit it at different levels. And, you know, we have law enforcement here tonight. They are truly on the front lines. And I think the sad thing is that when, what we see in the schools is kind of the outcome of that. You know, we see the child who comes in, whose parents had an issue the night before, and that child's in no state of mind to learn anything because mom and dad were, you know, wired on something, and that child's just trying to get himself or herself oriented. And, you know, I think there's clearly a law enforcement piece. There's other things that are happening at the state level with respect to support and at that level. But I think it really starts at the community level, and, you know, we try to provide as much services as reasonable that we can, but, you know, it's going to take everyone, and it's from law enforcement, it's, you know, selectmen, budget committee, school board members, fire, you know, it's everyone. That's my take on it. It is such a huge issue.
Jane, did you want to respond?
Well, I just wanted to say that we're trying to service all of the children who come in who have problems as a result, and some of them have birth defects as a result. It's not just what happened the night before. And we have children. There was one little girl that was, I think, 6 years old, and it was 3 months into the school year, and she'd been in 7 different schools because her mother was just going from place to place. And the parents of these children very often are the grandparents. They're not even the natural parents. And so we're trying to provide the services for every one of those children, and we are mandated by the state, an unfunded mandate, I might say, to take care of those children, to educate those children. And we have to do that within a budget, but that's where it falls on the taxpayers to help fund those. And a great deal of our budget this year, if you come to the district meeting, you will see is going into the special services for special education.
Thank you, Jane. Any other questions for Jane from the budget committee?
Kind of.
Okay, kind of.
Dennis May.
Hi, Dennis.
When you start talking about the budget stuff, I guess this would be, it deals with budget, but it would deal with school board as well. It's kind of it's more of a statement, I guess. I guess I'll look for your commitments as a school board member. I know that there are outside sources available to school districts for things such as the opioid problems and so forth. I was doing an internship with an organization that deals with at-risk youth, and these are free programs to the schools. And I can say that I was in kind of a tight spot because being an intern, I really couldn't voice my opinion and do a lot of things. So I'm sitting in meetings. I was privy to meetings where we had this school district's representatives from school districts who had the authority to say yay or nay on utilizing these programs. Again, these are free programs. These are not tax. I mean, they're tax dollars, but they're on a state level. You know, it's a collective tax. And I saw the programs not being taken advantage of by our school district because it's up to a person who says, and you know, the body language was kind of like, it's really not for us. Well, Tilton Northfield or Winnisquam Regional School District, there's a lot of those kids in this district that program is for. I work mostly with youth out of Manchester, which, I mean, they're a heavy-duty user of this program. So my advice would be to look at a little bit of oversight on what our people are doing in the school district, because I know the selectmen provide a lot of oversight on DPW, police station, things of that nature. I'm not confident that the school district does the same as far as the school board providing the same oversight with our schools. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. I'm so passionate about it, I tuition my daughter elsewhere, just to say.
Did you have a question?
Yes, will you commit to me to look into that?
I would, if you have those programs.
Sure.
Forward, I'd like to. Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Jason. All right. We have 3 candidates for commissioner for the Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS District: John Silly, Caitlin Lounsbury, and Preston Schaub. So, John, do you want to introduce yourself? Say you've got 3 minutes to tell us who you are and why you're running.
Okay. So first off, my name is John Silly. I'm from the Northfield side of the river. My background, I grew up in Laconia. I was always involved in civil activities as a youth with Boy Scouts, Explorers, Call Fire Department. I got into the fire service back in 1987. I actually went to the Tech and received degrees in fire science and fire protection. I have a long background with dealing with the call force, how the call force is perceived, the politics involved in it, and what the fire service has happened over the last 30, 40 years of how it's progressed. I am career military. I have 30 years in altogether. I just finished up my AGR down in Concord with 15 years of that. I've been doing that since 2009. Prior to that, I was an electrician, so I was dealing with codes on a regular basis. NFPA 70, the electrical code, 101, the building codes, the international building codes. These are things we have to follow. Your construction people, these are the guidelines they go by. Are they laws? No. There are RSAs that say you will follow these based on the guidance. Research on that was RSA 155-A:2, because these are comments that came up last week about their guidance. They're not the law. But the fire marshal has these that we're supposed to follow. Do you really want to rely on someone who's not following the codes? We saw what happened with that down in Florida when the hurricane hit, and they flattened out everything. So they built up their codes even more. These are guidances. Some major concerns I see coming up with the district is the station, manpower, apparatus, and we even have a warrant article to disband. All these things are pretty dramatic, and to be honest, whoever is going into this position could be walking into a real hornet's nest if the vote goes to disband. They're going to be part of the planning process of how do we separate two stations and still have the apparatus response. Right now we have 3 people per shift. In order to split it, you would have to have 4 people. There's different ways of looking at that. And that's the whole thing, is looking at what works around us and try to bring those in. Pretty good background. I'm pretty black and white. And if we have to violate the black and white, how can we go into the gray area but meet the intent of the black and white? That's to stay within my 3 minutes.
Thank you, John. I'm going to ask Caitlin and Preston to speak too, and then we'll ask if there are any questions from the audience. So Caitlin, you're up next. 3 minutes.
Great. Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Lounsbury. I grew up in Tilton and Northfield. I was born here, I was born in Concord Hospital, but grew up here starting in 1988. I graduated as valedictorian of the Winnisquam Regional High School in 2006. Left to go to school at UNH and Boston College, and lived in Concord for the past and up until 2 years ago when we bought our house, saving up for our dream house, which we found in Northfield. And since I moved here, I've gotten involved in the Northfield Budget Committee. I've been on the zoning board. I'm the chair of our committee planning a community profile event, looking at the future of Northfield. What can we find out from the residents about what people want for the future of this? I work for a national nonprofit that works with victims of child abuse. My job is the program evaluation coordinator. I help our organizations collect data on the services that they provide and use that data to improve their services. And that's part of why I became so passionate about wanting to get involved here, because I felt like there were a lot of missing pieces of information about the services that are being provided in the Tilton Northfield Fire District right now, around our calls, around the codes, around the guidelines that we need to be following, and really need to put all those pieces together to figure out how to best serve our communities together. You know, as John mentioned, there are some really concerning topics right now in terms of making sure that we stay together and work together, because I do believe that we are stronger trying to tackle these issues together rather than trying to duplicate efforts. And if we were to disband, there would be some very difficult decisions to be made. Of course, the station, I think that we have a lot of dreams for the future of Tilton and Northfield and serving these communities, but we need to make sure we're doing that in a way that doesn't push out people that are on fixed incomes, whether that is our older residents, and we know that often our older residents are the ones that need these EMS services, so as well as attracting young families here as well. So I hope that I would be able to provide some unique perspectives, as others have said about some of these boards and the commissioners in particular, bringing in new blood, new ideas, and give some of my expertise around evaluating programs to give an outside perspective on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Caitlin. And Preston.
Hello, everyone. My name is...
Speak into the microphone.
I got a loud voice. I'm sure I'm on there. Hello, everyone. My name is Preston Schaub. I moved to the town, Northfield, in the spring, summer of 2015. I moved up from Texas. I worked for the Department of Corrections in Texas for about a good year. Moved up here, got into the same line of work. I work for the Department of Corrections for New Hampshire right now. Moved up through the ranks in the department. I'm now an investigator within the department, also a K-9 handler for all facilities throughout New Hampshire. I drive all over the state, north and south, east and west. I go to parolees' houses with probation parole officers to check on them and use my dog to help find narcotics, opioids, drug-related issues. And it saddens me to see that, yes, little kids are affected by this, and sometimes being a child victim services, it's turnover rate for child care in that sense is very, very, very fast, because nothing gets changed without fixing the adult, and you can't fix the adult unless they want to be fixed. And having close to 14 years in the Department of Corrections, I've learned that and realized that it's not a single person's responsibility for managing or dealing with a crisis like a drug-related crisis like we have within the state. It takes all parties and all people involved to come together and fix the issue. I won't get into lacks and shortfallings in whichever department's doing whichever. I'll leave that for personal judgment somewhere else. But I'm an outsider coming in, unbiased. I look at things with a clear perspective, and I'm going to look at things regarding a budget and what affects the public and the people. If it means my taxes go up $100 to get myself or the local people a new truck or a new EMS, maybe I might not be the right person for you guys, but I want to know that when I'm working a third shift position, that my family is going to be protected if an emergency happens, as well as my neighbors and everybody in this facility or in this town. That's going to be my angle and my aspect on everything. I truly believe in public safety as well as public support and everything else. I understand everybody needs to realize that I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Preston. So, those are the three candidates for commissioner in the Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS District. Do we have any questions from the audience for these three candidates? Kathy.
Mitchell, Tilton. I'm curious what the three candidates feel about the warrant article for the $7 million new building. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
We'll start with John, Caitlin, and Preston.
Okay. My feeling on that is it's way too much and we can't afford it. I believe a year and a half, 2 years ago, we had the same article presented to us for $5 million using the Tilton School property. That $5 million was still too much. What we're trying to build is a whole new station over on Mansfield Road and expand onto Park Street. Because of the recent events going on in the station, we need to move those firefighters sooner than 2 years for the build of this oh my god project. We need to expand onto Park Street, put another bay or so on there, put living quarters on there right now. We have to stage this out and how we're going to do it. And then build a smaller station over on that side of town in a year or two from now to have an ambulance over there to get your run response for your medical calls as well as an engine, so that you can go like Laconia used to a long time ago in Weirs. They went with an ambulance or an engine. Right now, we can't do that because they have 3 people, so you have 2 people going on an ambulance and 1 on the fire truck. And when that fire truck gets there, it's a big block in the road because that lieutenant cannot do anything with that engine by himself until call force or other people get there. He is just a driver to get the apparatus there. He can just size up, which is good, but you need that. The response is a concern. We need to go with a smaller station, and they can expand onto Park Street. One of the issues they have is response to the east side of Tilton. I am still pushing back saying we need to approach the state and go northbound onto 19, even if it's emergency access only, around the existing beaver pond we put in for wetlands, and then you will get that. Otherwise, we go 19 south, a quarter mile, and do the emergency cutover and get back up. You're now in about 2 minutes to get up to exit 20 without going through town. We may need to do something like that and then expand onto there. When we build over on the east side of Tilton, plan a couple of bays initially with an expansion for down the road if they're going to do that 10, 15 years when we have to go bigger and better. Plan ahead. The aprons that they're trying to put in on both sides of the station, we're way overboard on that. You look at Guilford. Guilford has a station that is set back from the road. They expanded 2 bays onto their station and added an administration wing, and they expanded a little bit on the dorms. I'm pretty sure Guilford did not go $5 million for that expansion they went on their existing station. So that's how we could expand onto Park Street and look at going in the future to hit both sides of town with that. Mutual aid is going to be around for a while. Who knows? District meetings, we may, down the road, merge with San Bernardino, other districts. Who knows? But it's too big. Too big, and we can't afford it.
Caitlin?
Yeah, honestly, I think we're really on the same page on a lot of those same issues. I mean, we went to the same meeting last week and heard about this, and I'm not convinced that it's the only other option. I think the options that were presented to us were a bunch of bad options that were even more expensive, trying to make the current proposal look more attractive by comparison. I think there are other options like the $1.5 million to renovate the Park Street station as is being proposed, or maybe a little bit more than that, to make it really the main headquarters. Our issue of using exit 19, that would really be a great idea, and I would support pushing ahead on something like that. I think a big problem right now is personnel. We don't have enough people on staff, and if we aren't willing to get the people to man this giant station, it's not going to do us any good. So I think we do need to make sure that we invest from that perspective. However, I also recognize that this has been an issue that we've been looking all over for places to put the police department, and and I understand that there's a lot of issues with a lot of different pieces of land, but I think we can at least get started because of some of the code violations that are happening at the Center Street station for the health and safety of our firefighters and the staff there, that we can start doing some things with Park Street immediately, just as Dawn has said, and then look at a smaller station over on East Tilton. So a lot of our ideas are the same. So I don't combat you on that at all.
Thank you, Caitlin. Preston?
I can't help but agree with both candidates. My statements earlier regarding getting a new station, truck if we needed it, that's under the assumption of everybody working together and finding a solution. As simple as that. I'm a part of the subunit negotiation for the SEA union regarding my chapter 255 in the state prison, and working with Governor Sonono. I believe that if we keep working and striving for a result, we can come to a decision. As long as we keep working and keep talking. As long as we keep talking, we can find a solution somewhere.
Thank you, Preston. Any other questions?
Questions for John.
State. Yep.
Yep. Tilton. It's the second time I've heard you refer to the circumferential highway around the beaver pond, and the light bulb just came on. Do you have a cost estimate for this new circumferential highway and the permitting process through wetlands and beaver ponds, and what that cost would be to the taxpayers versus just putting a building where the roads already exist?
Okay. I don't have the exact cost, and I will admit I'm coming to this meeting in the 11th hour, as was mentioned before, the other night. There is an issue going on here. Yes, we would have to approach the state. We would have to I would recommend we have the selectmen from Northfield talk to the state rather than the fire chief. There's probably a little bit more pull with that, since the selectmen have approached them in the past and then they step back from it. So we really need to do a push for that. And if not, like I said, we use that emergency cutover. Guess what? The state will realize they lost the battle and work with us. If there is a significant cost, $500-600, it's no worse than what we're putting over at Manfield. So you incorporate some of that cost as part of the station construction, and the state will probably work with you with you putting some money into it. I don't know. It's something that needs to be discussed. But I think the selectmen from Northfield should be the ones discussing it on behalf of the district to the state, because they will probably have a little bit more pull than our fire chief asking, can we do it?
Thank you, John. Question, Dennis? And name and who you're directing the question to.
Actually, my name is Dennis Banning. I live in Tilton. Actually, it's to all three, if I could. First question is real easy. What do you, in your opinion, what are the components of the fire district?
You want me to start again?
Or whoever wants to go first.
Why don't we start with Caitlin, Preston, and John?
Oh, sure. So I think that there's some miscommunications, because a huge part of the fire district is actually EMS. So of course we do respond to fire district. We respond to all sorts of different calls related to the health and safety of this community. So when we're talking about issues such as the opioid epidemic, that's something that the fire district is directly involved in as well. So I think we're really overlapping with a lot of the different topics here. So we're not just talking about fire. We're not just talking about heart attacks or anything along those lines. We're talking about
The components of the fire district.
in terms of the towns represented.
So, like, what do you believe makes up the fire district? What are the components of Tilton Northfield Fire District?
From everything from the commissioners to the firefighters to the administrators to the chief to all of those different pieces as being part of the district. Is that your question? Okay.
I'm coming into this with a fresh slate of a canvas, so to be fully honest with you, I don't know. I do know that I'm an open canvas and I can pick up on things really quick. As far as what the components are, I'm sure I'll learn that fairly fast enough.
You don't have to. Just, it could be anecdotal. What do you think?
What makes up the fire district?
In your opinion, what do you think?
EMS and as well as the firefighters, staffing and personnel, keeping the staff safety as well as everybody behind the scenes.
What I look at the fire district as, we have multi-response. We have fire, we have EMS, we have motor vehicle accidents. The medical and the motor vehicle accidents is our biggest increase. The fires have relatively stable, and you get mutual aid for that. On top of that, you have your personnel. So your personnel, you have your on-duty personnel, you have your administration personnel, and then you have your fire commissioners who just give direction of where they want the chief to take the department. The chief is supposed to be the one running the department. We just give the overall guidance and the oversight. My background, I like to trust but verify. So this is the way to go, but I will ask questions and make sure we are going the way we said, and if not, we will have a sit-down talk about why. Equipment. We have to look at where our equipment's going, the expansion of equipment. What's the industry standard? You talk the NFPA code, so many changes with that, and the way things are going in the future. You can go to a medical call now, and you can kneel down, and you're going to kneel on fentanyl. And so now the firefighter gets halfway back to the station, and he's ready to pass out because he kneeled on the fentanyl or the drugs, and it's absorbed through his skin. That's why they need the decon and things like that. It's getting worse and worse, and protective equipment is changing. Technology is changing. There's so much to the fire service that it's not even what I started in back in '87. It's so much more. They're now pretty much dealing with hazmat cases all the time, where you're going in a plastic suit, which would be pretty bad for a fire, but you have to go in with a Tyvek suit, and even our police officers are going in. We have to start thinking about personal protective for them, because I've been to calls over in Belmont, where the drug paraphernalia is right there. I'm like, okay, where's the needle? I see the powder and stuff. Oh, she snorts it. So because I'm looking, where's this needle I'm going to kneel on, and now I'm going to have an exposure. So there's all kinds of things. The apparatus, how we house that apparatus, how we look at the future of where it's going to change, and how they're going to change the standard 10, 15 years from now. And there's so much more that's the unknowns.
Well, I was just glad to hear y'all say personnel. That's what I was looking for.
So
a lot of times it's taxpayers.
You have
buildings and so forth.
You have a
That's-
second question?
The second question is to all of you all. As a Tilton rep, I'm a Tilton resident, okay? And being from Northfield, I hear a lot of things. I was a fire commissioner as well, just a few years ago. And I spent 2 years, I was the commissioner representative to the facilities committee, okay? And I'm just a little disheartened to see that, you know, I mean, we all come in, we always have our ideas about what we want to do when we get on the board. You know, we all run for different things. I can say when I was running for commissioner, I had ideas about things, and then I got educated, and I realized what the fire district was all about. Personnel was a big one, you know what? And that's my focus as well. You got to take care of your people because they're a huge part of it. But as far as the question to all of you all is with regard to the facility, okay? Now, I'm not really keen on the $7 million. It's not the $7 million. I'm not really keen on the current plan. But I will say, having sat on the committee, we did a study and we came up with needs, all right? And I'm just a little concerned that it's always about the dollar, okay? Because when you say we can't afford it. So no matter what we need, whether we can afford it or not, is always going to be the factor. So my concern is why build anything if you're not going to build it to the need? Because it's really an effort in futility. And furthermore, when we talk about starting at Northfield, and revamping the Northfield station, and then maybe some way down the road, we can take care of a small building for the Tilton. All right, look at the numbers. That facilities committee came up with the numbers. You know what? Northfield pays about 38% of the deal, and Tilton does about 62%. And if you look at the call data, it's pretty dang close to that, Tilton and Northfield. So when you're looking at that stuff, I'm a little hesitant to use anecdotal information only. So do I have you guys' commitment? You'll look at something with open eyes and not the issue that you're running on, and look at what comes up in the study. Because if people study something for 2 years and tell you this is what we need, regardless of the cost.
So your question is, do you have a commitment?
For me to keep an open mind and look at the studies and not just, we cost too much money.
Okay, we're going to start with Preston, then John, and Caitlin last.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Absolutely. If the facts show itself, I'm not a bashful person. I shoot straight to the point. I don't shoot from the hips, but I do make sure I'm not beating around the bush. I agree, yes.
Thank you. John?
So I know that the study was out there. I didn't get a chance to see the study last time. I was one of the big proponents shooting down the big station last time. I definitely would look at the study, and I don't like to go in things with a vacuum. Give me the background information and let me infer it. Also, let me trust the data and make sure that there's not other agendas when we build things. There is a lot going on with that. I mean, I'm on the school board. I've been there for 2 years. I was on the budget committee before that. I look at it as a district as a whole. That's how I look at the school. The school, my goal is to get every student out of there to move on to their next chapter in life successfully. My goal with the district is to look at this and what can we do to work with dollars, what we can do to expand our footprint if we need to. What is the needs of the district? Do we need 2 stations? I think down the road, yes, we do. I think we need to have a strategic plan to get that, but we need an immediate. Over there, needs to be closed down. It doesn't meet code. It doesn't meet the fire safety for what they need at night. We don't even have firewall protection for the firefighters upstairs in our own station, and we don't have sprinklers to protect them. So unfortunately, we may have to do a Band-Aid, but let's be smart about that Band-Aid and make it part of what we need to do over there to get them safe. And then, as part 2, have that plan in place. Absolutely. And yeah, I will look at all the information and prove me wrong. If I'm coming at something totally wrong, slap me with the facts. I'm very open to absorbing all that.
Thank you, John. Caitlin?
Yeah, I am also very open to that. I mean, a whole part of my role with the programs that I work with as my day job is to look at the data, to look at what the needs are, to make decisions based on that, not gut feelings that we can't back up with information. As John was saying, the needs of our firefighters and the types of calls that they respond to and the training that they need and the investments that we need to make around that are very different than they were a couple decades ago, and especially 100 years ago when the station was built here in Tilton. So I definitely am open to looking at the facts around that and what the current needs are and how we can address that. It's not just about the dollar. And I think that when you ask most people and you present them with the types of issues we're facing right now around, needing proper decontamination facilities, needing proper code, for our buildings, they want to give you a fire station. It's just that the $7 million is too much for the average person to handle here. That's not to say that they don't want to invest in something, and I think the problem is that we keep coming with these huge projects, $5 million, $7 million, and it's not that people don't want to invest in the fire district. It's just too much for the average person, and it keeps getting voted down. So we need to come up with a solution that the townspeople will accept.
Thank you, Caitlin. Any other questions from the audience? Joe? Name and who?
This doesn't work.
Okay.
I'm Joe Jessamine, I'm from Tilton.
Who are you directing the question to?
To all three of them,
Okay.
because I believe Caitlin touched on the subject of, there's a warrant article to dissolve the district. And I'm curious how each of the three candidates feel about that and why.
I think you're up next, John.
I think dissolving the district would be bad. First off, it's going to hurt your wallet for both sides of the river unbelievably, because now you're going to have to build something in Tilton immediately. We're going to have to figure out the whole cost plan of how we're going to divide the equipment or what we're going to do to man. Then do you go back to an unmanned station, which some people have talked about. Some people have talked about bringing in an ambulance service like they do in Moultonborough. That's a very expensive venture, and you lose your Comstar fund, which is a nice source of revenue coming in to help with apparatus. So financially, I think it would be disastrous. Manpower alone, if you're going to try doing that and you want round-the-clock manpower, say you do 3-day shifts, so you have people on 24, off 48, on 24. You still are going to need 6 people for that, plus an administrator, chief or deputy, on both sides. So you just went from 14 people to 16 people to do the same. And that's if you shrink it down to a 3-person shift. If you do the 4-day shift, then you're going to add another 4 people on top of that. So each town is going to absorb almost what they're doing for manpower as it is. So costs and benefits, that's going to hurt. The apparatus change out, that's going to hurt, because you're going to want an engine and an ambulance. The tower, they'll probably fight over who can take that away because of the cost, but you want at least 2 engines and an ambulance in each station. We don't have that now to start splitting up and fighting over, so I think it's a bad idea.
Thank you, John. Caitlin?
Yeah, I agree. I think that I've tried to listen to the folks that are kind of behind that petition and that spoke about it last week, and I just think that they don't have a plan, and it's going to be messy, and ultimately you see so many other areas recognizing the benefits of regionalizing. You cut the costs when you don't have 2 chiefs and 2 administrators, and we don't have the equipment, just like John was saying, to just divide up evenly like that. I think you'd end up duplicating costs and personnel in so many ways that just would really not only be a financial burden, but could really impact the ability of both then departments to respond to the needs in their respective communities. So I think that, and in fact I get frustrated when I was doing some research on this and came across old news articles and it says things like Northfield wants to pull out of the district. That's not true. I think most people in Northfield want to work together with Tilton. There are so many ways that we work together, whether it's our school district or other districts that we work together on, and I think that it gives a bad name to the people in Northfield that want to continue to work together, find solutions that benefit both towns.
Thank you, Caitlin. Preston?
My response would be no, I don't think that would be financially responsible at this point. If that were to ever come to head, I think that would have to be a slow separation, if anything. But right now, absolutely not.
Thank you. Any other questions for our candidates? All right.
Here we go.
Question for...
Cat, your name?
Oh, Kevin Waldron. Do you know anything about that? Question for all 3 fire district candidates. Judy talked about think it was an oh my God situation that's come out of the moon in the last few weeks. And your solution to that is to immediately build up Park Street. That is not an option that's going to be before us anytime soon. So if your concern is, and for the record, I'll never vote yes on a $7 million deal. If that is your focus, and you're worried about the 2-year build-out of Manville and Park Street, how do you get that, your plan to build out Park Street immediately? How do you bring that to fruition? Because you need fire district meeting. I would guess it's going to require that 4-letter word bond, which requires 2/3 vote. How do you make it happen?
So this was directed at John and, oh, all three?
All three.
Okay. So, Caitlin?
Sure. Well, I don't think it's going to happen overnight. And I also think that these are types of issues that we've been aware of for a while. So, Kevin, these haven't just come up overnight. I think that with the focus on the bond project right now, it has, in some ways, a lot of the problems have been highlighted to try to sell the big project. So I think that we need to do some more inspections on this. It sounds like we have some concrete information that there are problems that we need to fix within the current station, because nothing's going to happen overnight. Even renovating Park Street is going to take a while. And so I think that we need to get the ball rolling on some of these things, but we can't just keep, shooting for the moon and then giving up when it doesn't get funded. We can't keep asking for something that won't be funded. We need to start coming up with some reasonable alternatives and start taking some actions on them, and really start looking at what can we do in the current facilities as a Band-Aid for right now, because we need to keep people safe in the facilities we have, while also immediately starting to look at some smaller scale projects and what we can do around that. So I think really it's just we're calling attention to things that have been an issue for a while.
Caitlin Preston?
I may not have a lot of experience in this specific area or department particularly, but like I had mentioned before, this isn't anything that can't be resolved with repetitive conversations and collaboration between all parties involved. I know we can find a solution at some point. It's just we got to find the right people to come to the right agreements.
Thank you. John?
So I'm not saying that we're going to be evicted tomorrow based on the inspection we recently have, but the chief needs to come up with a corrective action plan, and then he has to work with the state and other agencies to figure out how long we have or what we need to do, because we may have to take from the operating costs right now to hit some of those requirements that we now have to do. Park Street, you can look at opportunities of temporary housing quarters over there. We have to get some better plumbing there for the showers. You can do Page Street rental for bunk trailers and things like that if we have to do it in a step process going forward. Yeah, money would be an issue. It would have to come to the townspeople and get their votes. We may not even be able to get it through this year, and we probably won't with it just around the corner. It'll probably be next year, but they need to be planning on that to get it operated on as fast as possible. There's a lot of concerns with that. I can't give you I wish I could have it in my wallet to pull it out and slap it on the table now and say, rent me the trailers and get them out of there. At least get the nighttime requirements out of there as soon as we feasibly can with a good plan putting it together. If you have to keep the administration up there, keep the administration up there, but at least get the life safety issues taken care of upstairs as soon as the opportunity allows us. But it's going to take more than my sitting down for 2 hours tonight to figure it out. It's going to take a bunch of people to figure it out, absolutely. And the public coming in. I think with this, we need to have more public forums and let people know, hey, we're trying to fix this. You want to be part of the brainstorming? You want to be part of the fishbowl? Come in here and throw it all on the table, and let's see what we can actually pair together to work and what we can't. The more minds that come to the table, the better chance of figuring it out and maybe more appealing to the public.
Thank you, John. All right, any other questions for our candidates? Well, I want to thank the audience for coming tonight, for asking some great questions. I want to thank all the candidates for coming out tonight and answering the questions and stepping up to run for office. It is a real community service, so thank you all.
Thank you, Judy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Regardless of how it works out, don't give up.
Yeah, I'm not really.
They're always looking for planning board, zoning board.
I'm on zoning. ZBA
Are you
now.
on
I'm
zoning
on
now?
CBN budget. I'm already on 2. So.
Oh, good.
I don't know. I think you came to budget. That's why I remember you.
I used to be in the budget, but when they appointed me as selectman, I couldn't serve on the budget committee anymore because you can only have one.
One selectman.
But I've done almost everyone in town.
I feel like it's the same little small group of people. And it's
Every place you go, you see the same face.
I just feel like there's not that many people that care. It's kind of sad, but it's just
There's not, they care.
just don't have the time.